talk to Samson. You know what I want?
Qool Hand Podcast.
I want to talk to Samson. You know what I want?
I want to talk to who?
Okay, keep
You know what
playing
I
it.
want?
Last one.
I want to talk to Samson.
Qool Hand Podcast.
Thank
Something
you.
you got to deal with. We're back for part 2 of the Crowded Places interview. We had to cut we didn't cut the last one short. We just ran out of time. Setting up this stuff, like dude got here at around 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
It is
6:05. I was 5 minutes late. It's punctual.
It's 8:11 right now. We spent a lot of time trying to get these angles right. Spent a lot of time just trying to get the lighting right.
Dedication.
Facts. And to be honest, he cared a little more than I did, because at a certain point for me, I'm always like, okay, at this point, we'll just take what we can get. People will like what we're saying and not the camera angles, or, the audio is more important than the video stuff. I need a team. That's what I need, a team. If you're willing to travel, no pay, you're willing to come over here to this undisclosed location and help with the Qool Hand Podcast, you will receive treasures in my heart. Crowded Places, you're back. Thank you for coming back.
I'm back like I never left.
Facts, you got on a new outfit.
Really? I didn't know I changed.
Let's talk about your album. I don't want to spend too much time. I just talked about myself, which is completely irrelevant. I want to get back to...
But Qool Hand Pod is the best.
Thank you. But that's...
Can we get a round of applause, audience?
You know what I want?
All right, let's talk about the album.
I want to talk to Samson.
Clown ball.
Oh, that was perfect. You set yourself up for that.
Thank
oh, my
you.
goodness.
Thank you, me.
Oh, I love that. All right. Anyway, let's get back to talking about your album. Now, there's a couple things that we want to talk about today and address. So, Crowded Places, you were recently in, there was a Spaces, not Twitter Spaces, not Clubhouse, but a forum, we can call it, where you were in the middle of a very serious discussion, right? And it was talking about quality of the music, talking about mixing. Mixing and mastering is something that you have been working on for how many years?
I mean, I guess since I started, but I took it seriously probably the past 3 years.
All right, so you have a base because you've been doing it since you started. So you have a base, but taking it very seriously in order for your music to sound its best when it's hitting people's ears.
Yeah, I took it from great level to GOAT level.
Talk that talk.
That's it.
All right. So you took it from a supposedly great level to GOAT level, GOAT meaning greatest of all time. And you have formed a strong opinion regarding mixing, mastering, engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And can you kind of share your outlook on that?
I mean, I look at it as something that's extremely important. And it's a part of the wheelhouse of if you're making music and you want it to be taken somewhat seriously, you should probably put forth a little bit of effort to make sure it sounds the best it can be.
What does it sounding the best it could be entail?
So first of all, if we're talking about let's just generalize it to rap music. You got the beat, you got the vocals. If your vocals aren't sounding good, that's a major issue. They can't be hurting my ears. They can't be sounding like, some 4-year-olds talking to you through a silo cup, whatever those things are called, a red silo cup with a string on the end. That's not, I understand everybody has their start or whatever, but I'm not listening to poorly mixed music ever. Especially if the vocals are the focus and your vocals sound horrible.
What about what the person is saying?
I don't like this segment.
What about what the person is saying? I'm here to challenge you because I definitely have an opinion on this. So you're going to...
I don't care what you're saying if it doesn't sound good.
So what if somebody thinks your stuff don't sound good?
That's impossible because it sounds great. That's just a fact.
So it's a fact that your stuff sounds great.
Yeah.
It's a fact that you're the GOAT?
No.
It's a fact that you're one of the best rappers ever?
Yes.
How is that a fact?
Because I've put in the hours.
What does that mean?
It means I've worked.
A lot of people work, but that doesn't mean they're the best at it.
Yeah. You know, there's people, let's use your job for example. There's a lot of people who do your job for a long time, but they probably don't do it as well as you.
Facts.
Same thing with me. Except I've actually done this a long time, and people still can't do it as good as me. So
it's not the same thing. How are you going to say it's the same thing except...
You're reaching.
No, you're reaching.
What are you talking about?
You just said that. You being the
Scratch
GOAT.
this whole segment.
No, I'm here. No, because we're going to have a real... Like this, I was going to break this up anyway. We're having a conversation. This is real talk. About this mixing
We'll
stuff.
start over. Why don't you go to your intent first instead of asking me a leading question? Because I'm talking about audio quality, and then now you're hitting me with a best rapper alive stuff.
Yeah, well, it's organic.
Just you got a purpose, so just get to the purpose.
No, that was organic. I strayed away from
my
purpose, and we veered off into another conversation. So we'll save that for later. We'll get back to that later. But the whole thing about the mixing and mastering, that you're not even willing to, you think it's trash. You might think something's trash because their vocals don't sound that great, right? Mm-hmm. So what about what the person is saying? Like if it's prime Lil Wayne, you know what I mean? And it's the not SoundCloud, it's the LimeWire era where where stuff is leaking and it's not great quality. You have a DJ having the stamps all over it. Drama King.
Yeah, I hate that. Tags. I hate that.
But what he's saying is hot. What Wayne is saying is hot. You think it's trash.
I'm not listening to it. If it doesn't sound good, I'm not listening to it. Why waste my time?
See, I think where we're at with this, because all of these things are subjective, honestly. I think that engineering, there's a science to it, like a real science, because it's all letters and numbers and stuff like that.
False.
And decibels.
I disagree.
That there's a science to it?
There's a science to it, but it's an art. And it's not something everybody can do because it really depends on your ears and your taste.
So it's subjective. That's what I was saying.
No. Because if you have good taste, it's going to sound good to the majority of people.
Good is subjective.
Not really, no.
Good is subjective.
A good taste, as far as sonics go, that's not as subjective as like, oh, I'm the best rapper alive. It's not as subjective. I can put on 2 songs. One sounds really good, mixed and mastered very well, and one sounds like it was recorded poorly, mixed poorly. I can play both songs for a homeless person. He's going to pick the better sounding song every time. You don't have to know what mix and mastering is to know when something sounds good and it doesn't sound good. It's not as subjective as other things.
I'll say this. When I'm talking about subjective, now these are we're talking about poor and good, right? Like something that was poorly mixed or not mixed and mastered at all compared to something. If you're talking about just sound, if you're comparing something that was poorly mixed and mastered, but what about something that you don't think is mixed and mastered properly? That's the thing, because you'll say, you talked about...
That's when it gets into nitpicking.
Well, this is the thing.
There's professional artists whose music I don't think is mixed and mastered well at all.
Yes. Give an example.
Drake's last album.
Okay.
It sounds pretty bad for the most part. There's like a couple songs that sound good, but for the most part, it sounds pretty bad.
So how are you judging this album?
Based off how it sounds.
So what about I've been losing friends and finding peace? Honestly, that sounds like a fair trade to me. So because that doesn't sound mixed and mastered properly, not that specific song, I'm just giving an example of something that comes off the top of my head. that's bad because it's not mixed and mastered properly.
No, there's a difference between that. Look, professional bad is me nitpicking. Like a professional artist like Drake, if he releases that album, that's me nitpicking. It's still going to sound good to a regular person. I'm talking about people who are throwing tracks on SoundCloud that sound terrible. There's a difference. That's bad. That's not as subjective.
I'm glad you clarified that.
And then I have a critical ear because I do it. So I'm looking at professional mixes a little harsher than people who are like just, throwing stuff on SoundCloud. Once you know the sauce, it's hard to look at things like the term rose tinted. Was it rose colored?
Yeah.
Once those are off, it's hard to try to build them again.
I feel you.
It's the same thing with like knowing the behind the scenes of movies or whatever. Once you know how it's made, you know where I'm.
Yeah. It's all cap like reality TV. Like you know that it's not real. There's nothing real about it. And you look at it differently. Yeah, that's not the exact same thing, but
yeah, it's like you watch an action movie and then a CGI thing pops up. Oh, it's obviously CGI, but it looks good. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I know that is because I know most people know what CGI is. So it's either you accept it or you look at it as, oh, this is something computer generated.
I've come to a little better understanding, just a little bit, because some of your comments that may have come off as egregious or critical.
I'm not listening to anything that's mixed bad. There's things that are mixed okay that probably could have been better. And there's a lot of reasons behind why professional mixes aren't really that great as they could be. There's also a lot of professional mixes that sound amazing, and I envy them and all that stuff. But, that's where the difference comes in between people who actually know what they're doing and rushing through it and people who don't know what they're doing and they're just throwing plugins onto a thing, or not even throwing plugins on. They're just, you get what I'm saying. This conversation's a waste of time.
Give an example. Don't use yourself.
I can hear myself wheezing.
That's okay. That's how you know it's real. Give an example of an album, because you gave an example of something that's not mixed the best, in your opinion, because I couldn't tell. Unless it's like a radio cut leak from LimeWire, I can't really tell if it's that bad. Give an example of one that's good, an album that you heard and you're like, wow, I wish I could mix like this. I wish I was up there on that level. For people who want to hear a difference.
The last FK Twigs album was mixed very well.
You talking about this last like EP type joint?
Yeah,
with
I guess it's a
Weeknd on
mixtape.
it?
It's not an album.
Oh, mixtape. Yeah, they called it a mixtape.
Yeah,
FK
that
Twigs.
was Mike Dean. He killed that.
Oh, he did that.
Yes, of course.
I didn't know that.
He's the GOAT. And here's the thing: he has had some bad mixes. Technically, you could say they're bad, but he also has like some of the best mixes ever. And he mixes and masters. That's my OG Mike Dean.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the one I can remember off the top of my head. There's other ones, but I'm just thinking about new music. That's probably one of the better ones.
And what about your take? Because one of the things that were mentioned was something on SoundCloud, something being thrown on SoundCloud. What's your opinion on, I don't want to say artistry or...
I hate SoundCloud. Is that where you're getting at? I don't want to listen to anything on SoundCloud.
Why?
It's terrible. I'm not trying to listen to music and hear an ad after the song's done.
So you have
interrupting the listening experience. The quality is horrible.
Okay.
The compression on it is terrible. This is some nerd stuff. But the audio quality on it is terrible. It's outdated. SoundCloud needs to die. There's no use to it unless you're like if you're making music with like samples and you can't upload it to streaming. You know, you don't want to get flagged for making money off of samples you didn't clear. Whatever. I'm not trying to listen to no music on SoundCloud. It's inconvenient.
Okay, so what if, like, what's the problem? Like, that's your issue with it. But what's the problem when it comes to somebody who just uses the platform to release music on? Like, what's the issue? That's your beef. But what's the issue? What's the problem?
Just
Okay,
told
there's
you the issue.
No. There's ads. Like you talked about ads.
That's my issue.
The
audio quality is terrible.
The listening experience is interrupted. The audio quality is terrible. That's valid when we're talking about as an artist.
It's inconvenient.
So what's an alternate way?
Streaming services.
Okay, and how do they do that?
Whatever you want. I mean, there's plenty of DistroKid, TuneCore, CD Baby, whatever. Like SoundCloud was valuable when these things weren't available to normal people like us. But now these things are available, so there's really no excuse to put stuff on SoundCloud unless you're trying not to get hit with like, copyright stuff. Which then, or if you're doing a bunch of remixes, that's where SoundCloud is good for. Otherwise, I'm not listening to nothing. Unless somebody like I know, or they sending me a demo or something, or like, somebody I'm cool with, they throw the music up there, but I'm not spending my time on. And even if I like a song on there, I'm not replaying it on SoundCloud. I'll listen to it once and I'm done because I'm not. It's inconvenient.
Last thing I want to bring up is your take. We had this conversation off camera before. It wasn't really a conversation. It was like a brief thing. Your opinion on writer's block. What you have
it's a myth.
How is it a myth?
It doesn't exist.
How?
If you have writer's block, you're just lazy. That's my opinion.
So it's your opinion that writer's block.
There's a wealth of things to be inspired by. I don't understand why anybody would have writer's block.
But so inspiration, how does that? I understand how inspiration can correlate to you wanting to write, but we're talking about you can be inspired, but the words, the rhymes just don't come to
then
the
you're
lyrics.
lazy.
How is that lazy?
Because you can find the rhymes.
You can rhyme stuff, but it might not sound good to you.
Then keep working. That's lazy.
So you've never been stuck.
No.
That's what writer's block is. You're stuck. You can't come up with something that sounds good. I can write some bars right now and they don't necessarily have to be good. And I keep thinking of something. This is what writer's block is to me. I never looked up a real definition.
Maybe you should read the definition.
No. This is what writer's
Pull up
block
the definition.
This is, you let me finish talking?
No.
No, because you literally have writer's block. You're stuck. You can't write.
Okay.
You have writer's block. It is
Right.
a block. But you're saying you can overcome that block. You're saying if you just work. That's what you're saying. If you just work hard.
I'm saying the block doesn't exist.
You're saying the block doesn't exist.
Yeah, there's no overcoming it. It just doesn't exist. It's something made up.
I think because you said before that you used to think hard and say, okay, you thought about something that you made up, right? You're coming up with lyrics and you're like, I'm not going to use that. But then you became more free with yourself and said, no, I am going to use this, see how it sounds. Do I have that right?
I'm not quite sure what you're saying.
When you're writing lyrics, when you're coming up with lyrics.
Oh, I'm talking about like content. That was content wise.
So when you get stuck, wait, you never got stuck before.
No.
You never got stuck. You never
No.
said, you never thought, you never had a beat. Well, you explained your process and you mumble stuff and you fill in the words.
Yeah, I always have an idea. Mm-hmm. It's not an issue for me. That's why it's confusing to me that people think it's a thing.
So maybe because it's not an issue for you, you think it's a myth.
I think if anything I can do, anybody else can do.
Why?
Because I'm only human.
We're all human.
We all have the same resources.
LeBron James could dunk, and he's very good at basketball. If he could do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
I can't.
You could if you tried. If you weren't lazy, you could try.
I can try. So it automatically equates to laziness. Is this what you're
you
saying?
can overcome anything if you put forth the effort. That's
So-
laziness.
So, all right.
Just because you say you can't, like, okay, you do it 50 times, I can't do it, then I just can't do it. No, you need to do it 50 more. And if that's not enough and you don't get it, then you don't really want it.
Let me tell you this, and this is something that I've thought about, right? When it comes to rapping, and I used to rap. I said it in his cipher. I was 9 years old when I first started to rap. I didn't have to study. I didn't have to sit down. And like you say, you studied rap, right? You had to study.
Not like purposefully.
But you said you studied.
Consumed it.
You studied to get to the point where you were at.
I just worked harder.
You worked
I got
harder.
better.
You worked harder. I never
I was
really
critical of myself.
You're critical of yourself. Cool. You're critical. You worked. You are a student. I think about myself. I just rapped. I rap something. That's not that good. Write something. That's not that good. Come up with something that I think is appealing. And people back in the day thought I was good. Thought I was nice. What my point is, do you get where I'm going?
No. That's why I'm laughing.
My point
I'm
is,
not going to interrupt you.
some people just do it and they're good at it. Mm-hmm. Some people have to work.
Talent is obviously a factor.
So you
Natural talent.
But this is the thing. You may have something in your brain, a part of your DNA. So stop denying it.
No, I'm not. I'm shaking my head like I'm agreeing with you.
Nah, you was kind of doing this.
Don't interpret my shaking.
I just saw you. I'm looking at you. You may have something other people don't.
Yeah.
But you're saying if you can do it, anybody can do it.
Yes. That's how highly I look at other people.
You cap. Don't come on this platform capping, dog.
That's not cap. I want everybody to win.
You do want everybody to win.
I'm here to uplift people.
But not everybody's like you.
No, they're not.
Facts. So people have writer's block.
Lazy.
It's real.
Fake.
It's real.
Fasudo.
What's up with him?
Pseudo. I said pseudo.
So I thought you were making up a new word. So that's the message that you want to get across today on camera. That writer's block is a myth. It's not real. There was never a block there.
No, it's not real.
You just need to work harder and you will
Yes.
come up with something.
Yes, absolutely.
What does working harder mean?
Write more. Even if you don't see, the problem is like you were saying, oh, it's not this isn't good, so toss it away, whatever. I'm not getting to where that's part of the process. Keep writing. That's why writer's block is a myth. You're not just gonna start shooting off firebar. Maybe you'll have a couple you can start off writing or whatever, and your inspiration for what you're writing is one line, and it's one hot line, so you build around that. The point is, it doesn't matter if it's hot or not. You got to keep doing it. That's where I'm saying it's lazy, because it's like, oh, well, this isn't what I want, so I give up. I'm stuck. That's lazy. Because not everything's going to be fire, and not everything everybody has to hear. That's the other thing too. Everybody thinks that everything they have to do, they have to have everybody hear it, and that's how they're judging themselves and their criteria. No, the process is you work through it. And if you're not doing that, that's lazy, in my opinion. That's why writer's block is a myth. And I don't look at writer's block that way. I look at it like somebody sitting down to a beat and they can't come up with anything to a beat. Not that you're already starting writing and you don't like what you have. I don't consider that writer's block because you're still writing. I look at writer's block like you have a beat or a song. You don't know how to fit into that.
All right. I want to clear something up because that's not what I think writer's block is. Like you write something and you don't like it. That's a part of the process. And I do want to say that I agree. I see where you're coming from, and I do not disagree with what you're saying. Like, I actually think that is good advice. That is great advice. It's basically don't give up. Like, don't give up. Just keep going. Just keep writing.
Yeah, you don't have to like everything you do.
I respect that. Listen, I respect that. I respect it. I agree with it. But a part of writer's block is an emotional aspect is like a emotional meaning, because I've been there. This is the thing. I'm speaking from experience. So I'm like, okay, I got something. I got a beat that I like, because I think if you hear something and you're like, you don't see where you fit in, you just may not be feeling it, in my opinion. Like, or you might like something and you can't see yourself fitting in, or I don't know, but some people have styles. But my point is, before I sidetrack myself, the emotional aspect to writer's block is you're trying, and it's like, why can't I come up with, like, why can't nothing I say, like, it's not making sense. It's like you have a beat, you have something, and you're like, nothing's coming to you. Literally nothing is coming to you. You know how to flow. You can even think of how you're going to start, even with a flow. Like, do the mumbling thing, but nothing is coming to you. This is writer's block. This is what I've experienced in the past.
Well, I would say to that, you need to ask yourself, why can't I come up with something? What's stopping me?
There's no explanation.
There's always an explanation. What criteria are you putting on yourself that you can't get past whatever you're trying to do? These are questions these people have to... I don't have that problem. So if you have that problem, ask yourself that, in my opinion, respectfully.
By the way, I hate this whole respectfully trend. Y'all New York, this is New York. I'm pretty sure New York started it. That's the thing.
Shout out to the Bronx.
Pittsburgh is the last to get every
Brooklyn.
trend. So I'm just letting you know. Pittsburgh is the very last, one of the last big cities to get any trends. They started wearing True Religions when I came back from Georgia. I'm like, what? True? Y'all just started wearing Trues and polo? But anyway, respectfully, go ahead. Respectfully.
I finished.
Okay, respectfully.
Respectfully, I'm done.
All right. So I don't think we're gonna get anywhere else with this conversation.
No, because you just want to battle me.
No, that's the thing. I'm not trying to battle you because you've enlightened me. That's the thing. We're having a conversation. I think this is a productive conversation where, because you look like the Ram I do. That's what they told you. That's what they tell me. And you too, from Mr. Robot. I don't know what this TV show's called, but I was going to say you're a robot and you look like somebody who plays a robot.
I'm a machine.
You are a machine.
I'm an alien.
You're something.
I'm otherworldly.
Honestly, like I'm enlightened because like I said, this was a conversation that I wanted to have, some hot takes, so to speak. Not really the SoundCloud. Like I wanted to know about the SoundCloud thing
but you agree with the SoundCloud thing. That's the thing you didn't say.
Yeah,
that's your take too. It's not like it's I'm out on a ledge by myself.
But more so the SoundCloud thing is because I think it's a dying platform. It's not. Like if you don't want to spend money, and at a certain point you can only upload so many minutes to SoundCloud.
Annoying.
Because
these stupid ads, that's my biggest issue with it.
The Qool podcast started on SoundCloud, as you know, and then I started
putting stuff out on SoundCloud.
And that's
that was before there was no option to do anything else.
Before it died, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's time to throw away the diapers and put on some real undies.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it is not. It's not accessible. It's not. It's not even user friendly in my opinion.
It's not. It's terrible. You can't line up songs. You can't have I want to listen to this song from this one album, and then I'm going to put this other song on there. You can't do that. Like it's stupid. The interface is dumb.
Yeah, it's
horrible.
It's a dead platform. I'm not even going to say dying. Like it's dead. It was about to shut down. Then Chance the Rapper resurrected it with a tweet for some weird reason. If y'all remember that, if anybody's tuned in enough to remember that, but I just wanted to get your opinion. Like, yeah, the SoundCloud thing. Like, yeah, I do have an opinion on it, but I'm here to talk to you about your take. Like, I don't like SoundCloud. I have the app downloaded, taking up space on my phone for people who use SoundCloud out of respect for them.
Yeah, because there's people that I like who use SoundCloud, and I'm gonna listen to their stuff.
Yeah, but
I'm only listening to it once. Sorry, even if the song's great, I'm only listening to it once because I hate SoundCloud.
That's true. And the sad part is, I don't want to listen to stuff. Like, I don't want to go out of my way. It's not accessible, but this isn't about me. I do agree with you on SoundCloud, but I just wanted to, because we do know people who use SoundCloud and stuff like that, just wanted to get your take on that.
I have Apple Music and Spotify, and it's more convenient to use both of those than it is to ever use SoundCloud.
Turn that up.
That's how trash SoundCloud is. Use two apps that have the same exact songs on them throughout the board, and I'll still use both of those before I use SoundCloud to listen to music.
Moving on. Thank you. All right, Crowded Places brought a very special gift. We were having expensive taste on these last two podcasts. Last one we had the Henny XO, aged for maybe like 8 to 10 years. Today he popped up with, he had to one up me. He saw that I had a drink and he had to bring one that might even be better.
I'm not competitive. I don't know what he's talking about.
I
did this because I respect him so much in his household.
You took it to the next level.
This is a gift.
He got Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades, everybody. Look at him advertising it. So I can finally say that we were sipping out of gold bottles. Mm-hmm. Do you want to do the honors? You want to pour us up?
Yeah, I got you. We're doing what these boys pretend they could do.
This cat brought Ace of Spades. I'm like, yo, why would you do something like this? Why would you buy this?
Why not?
Well, this is a true story. I'm like, dog, what is this cat buying Ace of Spades for?
We got to be...
He wants to go to them Rock Nation brunches.
I am Rock Nation.
You're Megan Thee Stallion.
Can't use too much because I'm going to save some for my family.
I thought we were your family.
My blood.
I thought we...
You're my spiritual family.
What do you think?
Hold on.
Hey, yo, Jay. Now, Jay-Z sold his stock in Ace of Spades and all that. He sold it to...
Oh, so it's not part of him anymore.
It's not even... He sold it for a lot of money. Yo, Jay. Now, Jay-Z listens to the Cool Hand podcast.
So, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. I'm still formulating my thoughts. I was going to, riff until I caught what I wanted to say. You go.
I don't drink champagne every day. I'm gonna make that clear. But I'll tell you this. When I sip a cognac, I know the difference between cognacs. Now, I done had champagne on a few occasions, had mimosas, had champagne by itself. And I don't know what's special about this.
So, maybe you can counter this. I think the more expensive alcohol gets, obviously the better quality the ingredients they're using. I don't necessarily think it attributes to taste. I think when I drink this, I'm not a big champagne person, but I know usually when I drink champagne, it doesn't always feel like clean. You know what I mean? Like cheaper alcohols don't taste clean. This tastes clean. Like I feel like it's pure, like I'm drinking purified, bubbly water. Like it tastes like regular champagne, but it's very clean. Like I feel like I can safely drink this and not have a headache. And I feel like the more expensive alcohol gets, that's usually how it goes. It tastes cleaner. Like I feel like there's less like dirt and unnecessary stuff in it. You know, you drink like a real cheap vodka and it's spicy, or it's real spicy. But if you drink a good vodka, it's smooth. So I think maybe the price attributes to the smoothness of this, because I mean it feels like, I feel like I'm drinking like a good, feeling wise, it drinks like a good glass of water, but it doesn't taste like water. Obviously, it tastes like champagne. It tastes like every other champagne. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm glad you bought it, because I would have been mad.
I don't care.
My point.
But
no,
you didn't address anything I said.
no, that was my response.
No, but I'm talking about more expensive alcohol. Doesn't it taste cleaner?
Yes. Crowded Places, album of the year.
Hashtag ALTY.
Hashtag album of the year. I want to talk about the album, the concept. Pardon me.
Okay, you're in your bag now. I can sense this. Let's go.
No.
You're floating.
Welcome to the Cool Hand Podcast. I want to talk about your album,
That was a flex.
Welcome to the Cool Hand Podcast. I want to talk about your album, the concept. I want to get, now this is time for the deep dive of the album, of Leave It As It Is, Not How It Was. I want to talk about each song, and you can give as much information as you want on it. Please elaborate, please talk. Mm-hmm. But what was the concept behind Leave It As It Is, Not How It Was?
Well, like I explained in part 1, excuse me, the bubbly.
Facts.
It's hitting my digestive system, so excuse the burps. Like I explained in part 1, the idea behind the album is basically like me going through basically like coming into adulthood and realizing all the changes that come with that, whether it's your peer group or your own mentality, your lifestyle, external factors, maybe events that happen in the world, all these things that you may not have specifically been prepared for, and just kind of like working through it all. But at the core of it is like a person's desire for control and wanting things to go their way or be the way that they used to be, even though they'll never be that way anymore. So that's like a general summary of the album, and kind of like how it can be a problem, how quickly things can go wrong if you hold on to the past for too long, and you don't learn to kind of move along.
So Leave It As It Is, Not How It Was.
Yeah.
Was that always the album title?
I actually had a couple different album titles. I had like 4 or 5 of them. And actually, there's this in movies, they when they're filming a movie, they have like a fake title for the movie while they're filming it. And I had that while I was working on my album. I had like a fake title for the album, which I knew wasn't always going to be the title, but it was kind of like that's how I was working with it. So like the fake title was I Miss My Brown Bogues. I miss my brown. I don't even know how to pronounce brogues.
I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I miss my brown brogues that I lost in Berlin. That was the working title of the album while I was recording and doing all that stuff. I knew it wasn't always going to be the final album title, but I always liked it. But that's just kind of like, it was just more of like a mindset for me. Cause that's a true story. I went to Berlin, I got on a bus and I had these brown brogue boots, and they were so fire. I loved them because I could wear them casually and I could wear them to the meeting and they would look good in both situations. And they were like the perfect fit and the perfect like design and everything. They didn't look cheap or nothing. And I got on a bus to Berlin, put my bag underneath the bus, left the bus. When I got off into Berlin, never grabbed my bag. Was gone. All my clothes, lost them. And so the reason why that was the working title was because even now I'm still salty about those boots. I can't let them go. Like those were one of my favorite boots.
Dang.
And I've even been trying to like find replacements for them. There's no replacements. So that's like that's the whole idea of the album in one thing is that. So that's why I was working with that. But like, I had a bunch of other titles that I did, which were kind of like variations of the actual title.
You gave me COVID. I wasn't coughing before.
You're welcome.
So other variations, can you reveal that?
I can check my notes. I don't know if I'm gonna use because I miss my brown brogues brogs. I think brogues is probably the way to say it. It sounds more French. I don't even know if that's the French term. Let me look.
Well, while you're doing that, I just want to continue on. If you can search and talk at the same time.
Yeah, I got it. So I miss my brown brogues that I lost in Berlin. Just a piece of junk amongst a bunch of antiques. Be honest with me. Don't waste my time or your time. That's way too wordy. Laissez-faire. Leave it as it is, not how it was. Leave it as it is, not how you want it. So, obviously, all the other titles don't really pop as much as Leave It As It Is, not how it was.
Got you.
Mm-hmm.
So you came up with the album, and leading up to this, you dropped your EP. You dropped Onset, which is from 2016. What did you imagine your first album being like? Because I know you, and I know that you work on multiple things at the same time. Was this something that you would have expected to be like, this is my first album, this is the concept that I want to have putting out?
No, I was working on a completely different album before I started this one, and I touched on this on part one as well. I kind of put that album to the side because I didn't really have the abilities to finish that the way I wanted to. And this one was kind of more of like a brighter direction and a more relevant to what I was going through at the moment. So as the music started to get made, I realized it was a different album than what I was working on. So I kind of just like rode that energy into actually finishing this. So what I was working on prior was my idea. Like I was going to come out the gate with like this big, like kind of like epic, like not epic as in the term that it's used, but like epic as in like storytelling, epic, like, you know, like a, you know what I mean? So it was going to be like a big thing, but obviously I didn't have the skills or the resources to do that. So I let it fall to the side, and I pursued this one.
Now, we talked about the concept a little earlier. Now, me being a podcaster, and you being in the industry.
Whoa. Industry.
There's, word gets around, right? And I'm not going to reveal my sources, but there was something that I was hearing about how the concept or the album relates to Star Wars.
Oh. So, yeah, there's a lot about Star Wars The Last Jedi that with the movie itself and how the movie was received, that kind of like correlates with my idea for the album. So you've seen the movie The Last Jedi, right?
Which one is that?
That is the second one of the new ones with Kylo Ren, and Luke comes back and he's old and grumpy and blah blah blah. You remember all that?
That's the one where they first find Luke Skywalker and he's training Shorty.
Yes.
How to be.
And he was like, the Jedi need to be no more.
Yes.
He's like, it didn't work, so it needs to stop. So first of all, out of those three movies, that one is the best one. Out of the new sequel Star Wars movies, that's the best one. Easily. And it got the most hate. Like critics love that movie, but fans hated that movie. And you know why fans hated that movie? Because they were afraid of change. They couldn't handle change. And that's my beef with it. I loved it for the fact that it flipped everything on its head. Now go back to the Star Wars before that, Force Awakens. That was a good movie because people, before that movie came out, people were watching the prequels and the fans destroyed the prequels because the acting wasn't the best. It wasn't good for the most part. It was too much CGI or whatever. It was too political, all this stuff, right? So the creator of those movies, he got a lot of flack for it. Companies and corporations, they got involved, whatever. Disney bought Star Wars. But all these people realized that the fan backlash was strong. And Star Wars fans are very vocal and they're very, like, abusive. So, you know, corporations, if they're appealing to the fans, they take these things into account. And for years and years, I don't even know what the time difference was between when The Force Awakens came out and Revenge of the Sith. But it was a long period of time, long enough for fans to accept a new Star Wars movie. But so Disney had Star Wars at this point, so they had to make a decision to regain the love that the fans had for the movies, right? So they started doing things that the old movies did in order to make Force Awakens. So they used more practical stuff, less CGI, a lot more what's the word? A lot more nostalgia baiting. So they threw in, you know, the Millennium Falcon, brought back the original cast, right? And like I said, the movie was good, but the problem with that movie is it was appealing to the fans way too much, and it was doing too much of what Star Wars already did. It was pretty much like a rehash of A New Hope, the storyline as far as it goes. Like it introduced some interesting characters. It had a lot of good setups. Finn had a good setup, you know. You're expecting him. He came through and he was like, you know, throwing down with the lightsaber a little bit. And that was like really cool. And as somebody who wasn't like I grew up with the prequels. I mean, I grew up with the original movies, but the prequels, I realized them in real time. So like that was more part of my childhood. So I was a little less harsh about them, but I always recognized they weren't as great as the original movies. Anyways, the nostalgia baiting, all that stuff in The Force Awakens. And I'll get to my point, but all this is relevant to it. So the first movie did a good job of balancing the old with the new, and they got all the fans back on board with that movie. And generally people liked it in the moment. Going back, a lot of people kind of criticizes it a little bit more. When I first watched the movie, I liked it, but I did not like rehashing of old ideas. I don't like that. Star Wars, to me, when I watch Star Wars is critical to me in my imagination as a child. Like that is one of those things that formulated me and made me want to be creative. Those movies are critical to that. So when I was watching those movies, even the prequels, I was seeing things I never saw before, you know? And so for me, I always looked at Star Wars as doing things different and doing things new. Even though even the original movies, they borrowed some stuff from like old, you know, everybody has their inspirations, but you take your inspiration and you create your own identity with it. And that's what George Lucas did. And I felt like even besides all of that, he always pursued his vision, which is respectable, even if people didn't like it. So anyways, going back to The Force Awakens, I always had a problem with it because it did stuff that Star Wars already did. They brought back another type Death Star type thing. And it's like the old movies already had 2 Death Stars. You bring back another Death Star. They brought back an Emperor type character with Snoke. And then you had Kylo, who was like another Darth Vader type. So we're rehashing the same stuff, right? And the movie was a good movie, but those stuff bothered me. Fast forward to The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi was like, okay, you did all this stuff. I'm going to throw it all away. And that's what made me love that movie, because it's like, okay, you guys are losing sight of what these movies are about, and we're going to throw away all of the unoriginal stuff, the stuff that's been done already. We're going to toss it to the side. And even they had like some nostalgia stuff in that movie too, but they did it in a way where it was like, it was subtle. It wasn't like in your face, like, oh, here's this, that from the old movie or whatever, but they did like little subtle callbacks or whatever. But anyways, I love that. Spoilers, they killed Snoke. That was hard. To me, that was hard. When that part came on, I'm like, okay, this is my movie. When Kylo, because you didn't know what was going on in that point. And Kylo, you weren't seeing that, because it's like the setup prior to that was all this predictable stuff with the previous movie. You knew where that movie was going. You kind of expected Han Solo to die. Like, somebody had to die. But in that movie, when that happened, I was like, okay, they're flipping the script and they're going in their own direction now. This feels like Star Wars to me, right? So, and even part of that, so going back to how it relates to my album, Kylo, when he was talking to Rey after they did that and they got busy, and after that, he was like, it all needs to end. The Jedi, the Sith, all this stuff, it needs to end.
He was a nut.
Yeah, he's like, it's time to let go. Like, you keep holding on to the past. She's trying to look for her parents. It's time to move forward. You're looking to Han Solo, to this person, to Luke, to try to find it. You got to forget all that. You're so concerned about your parents. Your parents are nobodies. That was hard to me too, because it's like, not everything has to be Skywalker. You know what I mean? Like, she's her own character. Let her do her own thing. And it's like, get rid of all that. Let's move forward and let's do something different, do something new. And even the stuff with Luke, which was cool. He was like, something has to change. And it's like, anyways, I say all that because the fans, so the movie itself is talking about, hey, it's time to let go. We need to move forward. Stop holding on to all this stuff that was in the past. That's what the movie is saying. And you need to learn from that stuff. And even like Yoda was dropping bars in that movie. He was talking about failure when he was talking to Luke. That scene was hard too. And that's like life lesson stuff. That to me, that's cool. But anyways, so the movie's talking about all this stuff about change, and then the fans slaughtered that movie because it was too radical for them. They're like, this isn't my Luke Skywalker. Why is all this stuff changing? None of this stuff makes sense. Why are they doing this or are they doing that? Now, if people want to criticize Finn in that movie, they really dropped the ball on that. If they want to criticize his whole storyline when they were at that casino, I get it. That was weak. But everything else was hard. I don't care what anybody says. That's one of the best Star Wars movies. But the fans reacted to it poorly because it wasn't what they recognized. But that's not in the spirit of what I saw these movies to be, as things that were pushing things forward and changing things. So how does that relate to my album, you may be asking? I think you already have the answer. Because people hold on to stuff way too much that if you get so obsessed with how things were and you don't want things to move forward, then you get stuck. And you know what happens? You get crap movies like what was that last one called? Rise of Skywalker. Was it Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, something like
that. That movie was terrible because they reacted to the fans' reactions. That movie was so bad. They went overboard with nostalgia. It was like a slap in the face, that movie. Because it's like somebody talking dumb to you. It's like, yeah, I know I'm watching a Star Wars movie. Stop reminding me every 5 seconds it's a Star Wars movie. But that's the issue with people when they can't let things be. Things always have to be the way you want them to be. Things always have to be how they used to be, how you think they should be. Let things be how they are and see what happens. If they would have let those movies progress the way they would have, the third one would have been fire. But they were doing all this stuff to appeal to the fans. And I get it. It's a corporation. They make money. Right? So you make a movie in The Last Jedi made a lot of money. But if you're looking at the fan reactions and everybody's destroying that movie because it's not their Luke Skywalker and, oh, why is this movie this way and blah, 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 and all this stupid stuff, because they were expecting Luke to come back and start throwing down. The dude's old. What is he going to throw down for? You know what I mean? They're mad about that. How is he going to throw down? He's old. They were mad because he's bitter. This isn't the way Luke Skywalker was. If you look at the old movies, right? You saw the old movies.
Bits and pieces.
Bits and pieces. But you know the character of Luke, right?
Yeah.
He never listened. He never really listened. People told him, hey, don't do this, don't do that. And he still did what he wanted, right? He always had a problem with like running ahead. So it makes sense in this movie that he ran ahead. He thought Kylo was about to turn evil. So he ran ahead and he was like, I have to act on this. And people say, well, he progressed. At the end of the movie, he had faith in Vader and blah, 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 or whatever. How many people out there have completely stopped fighting whatever issues that are deeply ingrained in them? Nobody. If an issue is deeply ingrained in you as a human being, you can overcome it, but you're always going to be fighting with that kind of issue. So I look at it like that way, and I'm like, Luke always had an issue, always will have an issue with running ahead and not thinking things through clearly, in my opinion. Other fans look at him as some kind of hero, and he's just going to completely accomplish, and he's just going to be, Omega level, and, nothing's going to faze him. He's just always going to look at the good in everybody. That's not human to me. That's why I like the movie, because it felt human. I expect 30 years from now that I'm probably going to be having the same struggles if we're still in this system. I'm probably going to be having the same struggles that I'm having today that are deeply ingrained with me. That's just how I look at it. But that's another tangent. But you get the whole point of what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Although Luke stuff is accessory. Now I got my nerd hat on. But, yeah, so the whole point of what I'm saying is the reactionary effects of not accepting change can lead you down to a way worse path, a Rise of Skywalker path.
Finn was a goofy.
He was a waste.
Thank you for sharing that. I've been waiting. I was waiting for a break so I can. Yeah, they turned Finn to a goofy. I have my bobblehead over there. I bought that when the
first movie, it was like, oh, this dude's about to go crazy in the second movie, and they dropped the ball.
They
big time.
They now I'm not going to use the word that I want to say. They diminished his character, and as you were speaking, now this is unrelated to your album, but when you're talking about how people were complaining and this and that, I wonder if his character being minimized to another Han Solo was because of the fan reaction.
I think everybody was pretty receptive to him in the first one.
Because they marketed him as a Jedi.
Yeah,
like
he had a lightsaber in the posters and everything.
And he ended up with a gat. Like he ended up with a little gun. So I guess what I'm saying is off. You know this way better than I do. But I've seen comments online and stuff about Finn. I'm not all in the Star Wars community, but that's one bone that I had to pick just as a guest in the Star Wars culture. And also comments that I saw like, why did dude have a lightsaber? Wow. But anyway,
they kind of like use it as a promo thing to trick people.
Yeah, he's a clown. Well, he's not a clown, but yeah, that was whack. So thank you for sharing that. That was like, it's kind of like an industry secret, an industry myth that was an industry rumor that was floating around about your album. I don't know if somebody close to you leaked that information, but it's out there. You should watch your circle before they hurt you.
But I just remember watching that movie and the reaction to it, and it kind of like fueling my ideas behind the album. And that's just a life thing, A lot of people get stuck because they just can't accept change. And I say that from experience. That's why I wrote the album the way I did. I was processing through accepting the fact that things are different, and they're going to be different when you get older.
That's a fact. We hear the same things. I think I mentioned this in the first part. Mind you, we're doing part 1 and part 2 of this interview within a week of each other. It's been a long week. I may have forgotten some things that we talked about, but how we hear the old heads say how things will change when we get older, and I'm like, okay, I'm this age and I ain't seen it yet.
They never told us that. I never been told that.
You ain't never been told certain things was gonna happen,
No.
or not certain things was gonna happen, but you hear the same story. You hear the same story about people and their friend groups and this and that. And,
No.
I heard.
I saw, like I said it last time, these are things that are all around you, you see, but nobody, I've never been warned about it. So the album is basically an extreme look at everything I just talked about. I basically just asked myself, okay, what if somebody took their desire for things to be the way that they used to be, their desire for control, too far? Could they destroy their own reality to the fact where they can't tell the difference between what's real and what's not?
It's kind of deep.
I love extremes. If you can't tell by, how I react to things, it's either trash or it's GOAT.
I'm glad you said it.
But I like it in creative senses too. So it's like, okay, how far would it, if somebody took it too far, could they actually break their perception of reality? So that's basically what the album does.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, how long would you say this album has been in the making, if you were to give an estimate?
I mean, probably like consciously the past 2.5 years, 3 years. But some of the songs, I think the oldest song is probably like 4, maybe 5 years old. Probably 4.
How long has the idea been in process to give people a better...
Probably in the past, like I said, the past 2
So
3 years.
So the
2.5.
actual... All right, just to be clear, and this is for me. This is for my own clarity. So the coming to the realization, you're working on another project and you're thinking, okay, what I got going on right now is a totally different direction. That's what I'm going to work on. Mm-hmm. That's 2.5 years. 2.5 years.
I would say rough estimate, yeah.
Gotcha. So 2.5 years in the making on this project, because that's another thing that I want to talk about in regards to the album is the work that is put into it. We always get the output of everything when we consume music, food, whatever. We get the output, but we don't know what is behind it. If you can explain your experience with the work that you had to put into, just a general overview of the work that's put in, and I might ask you some specific questions. For example, we heard a choir. For example, in the documentary, we saw string players. And they just don't pop up out of nowhere and start playing strings. You have to find them. You have to contact them, things like that. So just a general overview of the work that you can give insight to.
General overview. I would just work on songs until I felt like they were right. It was a slow process. I took my time with it. If something didn't feel right, I would set it to the side, and come back to it later. There were certain songs where I always knew like this is an album song. Once I came to like the idea of the concept, then I started fitting things around it. I would listen back to old songs and then be like, oh yeah, this song fits into that vibe. I love the violin and the cello. Strings are my, those instruments that are in the string family are easily my favorite out of all instruments. So it was just always something that and that goes back to my love for film and, the influence of Kid Cudi and Kanye, because they had the orchestra stuff in their albums. And I always loved that, it was like the merge of the cinematic and the songwriting stuff. So that was always something that I wanted to do. And like I said before, the pandemic really made it a reality because I was able to actually find people who could do these things for me.
You explained your process in part 1, I believe, and you talk about how you start with like, I'm paraphrasing, like a hook, and like the lyrics don't always come first. Taking things through the process of one song, how many changes does a song see? Because I mentioned in my reaction video that I heard the album when it was incomplete. All the songs were finished, but what I listened to in the car wasn't what I heard when it was released. So what type of changes do songs go through when they're, air quotes, finished?
A lot. There's several most of the songs on the album don't sound the way they did when I first started them. One of the things I really like to do is once I get vocals down that I like, usually I have to bring the production up to match the quality of whatever I'm doing, whether it's singing or rapping or whatever. And then it's just kind of like a push and pull between the two. So like if I have an idea of a beat, then I'll put out my my ideas for the lyrics. I'll finish the lyrics sometimes. I'll finish the lyrics and then go back and work on the beat to match up to the level of the lyrics. And then it's like, okay, well now the beat's elevated. Maybe I should re-record this or do this over. So it's just a constant push and pull with that most of the time. So most of the songs don't really finish the way that they started. Yeah.
All right. I think you'll be able to elaborate more on some of the changes that certain songs went through when we talk about them.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the songs. But right before we do that, one thing that we don't want to leave out is the interesting artwork. Now, when you release the artwork, I'm like, okay, leave it as it is, not how it was. Based off the past, you were coming off the Somewhere Soon era where we had the legendary artwork by Victoria and with the paper plane and the bright colors.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's classic artwork. It's a staple in the Crowded Places discography.
In any discography.
In the world, matter of fact.
Seriously, that's some of the best artwork I've ever seen on any album.
It's crazy. And the story behind it is even better. You know what I mean? Like her just drawing it and then scanning it in, I think. So, so you're coming off of that. And then, okay, leave it as it is, not how it was. Now, this is Crowded Places we're talking about. This is somebody who always goes above and beyond. Like, somebody who's dropping merch, like era merch. Like, you can't get the Somewhere Soon merch today. Like, you got that for a specific time period. Somebody who's going out and getting outside help from professionals on your music and things like this. This is somebody who goes above and beyond. Now, when I'm hearing about, documentary, you're dropping a documentary, you're doing this and that, and then the artwork drops, and I thought, I know that there's a significance to it because I know you, but I don't know what the significance is. I see a cool picture. Mm-hmm. What's up?
So for me, I always have an idea of how I want things to be, but I am always open and I always leave room for mistakes to happen or things to come by accident. Like I'm not too set on my ideas or my vision that it always has to end that way. Probably some of the best things come from just messing up or making mistakes, or, you know, pushing yourself a little bit further beyond how you think you should do things. Anyways, the artwork to me was a mistake. It came about that way, and that's why I used it for the album cover. So I was getting into film photography. I had a roll of film, and I think it was when we hung out. It was one time when we hung out, and I brought my camera to get some pictures. I didn't know the roll of film was already loaded in there, so I opened it and exposed the film. So I ruined those images. But I got them developed, and because I didn't even remember that I shot those pictures. So I was at the park and I was in my car, shot a picture of a bike rider and ruined it. So when I got the film developed, I was looking through the photos, and I just looked at that one, and I'm like, this fits the album, because it was a mistake, because I didn't mean to ruin it, but I liked the way it looked, and it also was significant to me just by looking at it, because if you look closely, there's a no left turn sign in there. And to me, that kind of like is significant on some of the ideas about the album, and how, like, you know the term, you don't go left. That means you're going in the wrong direction. So I like that that's in there. It kind of is like relevant to the music, and how the music is basically like somebody going left. Like the lesson you learn from the album is in the artwork, and the artwork is also not edited, besides the fact that I cropped it. But like there's no color correction, nothing, because I just wanted to leave it as it is, not how it was. And that's why it perfectly represents the album for me. Because how it was in real life, it was a cool shot, and you had a bike rider on there and everything, but he got washed out. So if you look at it the way it was, it's like, oh, it could have been better than what it is, but it is what it is. I messed up the film roll, so that's what it is, and it's now more significant because of what it represents and what it shows. So that's why I went with that artwork. And to be honest, I had a lot of pressure on myself, because I'm like, man, how am I going to follow up with the artwork for Summer Soon? Like, how am I going to follow up with that? Or even just the artwork for the singles, you know, how am I going to follow up with these, you know, by these artists that actually know what they're doing, you know what I mean? And to me, that picture, I just stumbled across it. It wasn't even like on my radar or what I was intending to do, but it just perfectly fit everything that the album was about.
All right, so let's talk about the individual songs. So, Keys.
Mm-hmm.
What? The floor was yours.
I thought you were going to ask a question.
No, like it's you break down Keys. Like, what is the story behind Keys? Now we have the general concept of the album, but each song has its own personality and its own place.
Yeah. So I'm going to flip it back to you. What is your impression of Keys?
I'm asking the questions.
Your impression will determine my response.
All right. So when I first heard it in the car, and even afterwards, my opinion stayed pretty much constant.
Mm-hmm.
But my impression, see, that's the thing. I'm about to critique it rather than give my impression.
What's your idea of the song?
I don't have an idea.
So you don't know what it's about?
No. Like I would have to listen to it, and that's the thing. Listening to something actively, and you hear something, the repetitiveness, and then you remember some things like hip hop's bestie, mix of a Tribe Called Quest meets Questlove and Tyreek. But the thing is, I remember moments.
Right.
I remember when the beat switches. That's when I feel like I really like the song. Beforehand, it's just like a hip hop song, easy. Ooh. But when the tempo changes, when everything changes, that's when I really, really, really. That's what keeps me coming back.
Mm-hmm. So, like the first part of the song is
Hold on, this dude really tried to reverse Uno. I want to. Please don't do that on this show. People have done that. And
not everybody's me.
What did you think of that, dog? I asked you.
No, I'm not asking you that. Like, oh, I want you to give me your opinion of the song. I don't care about your opinion of the song. I'm asking you that of your impression, like what idea you got from it, so I know where to go. With what I'm gonna say. I'm not looking for compliments when I'm asking that.
It was the best song in the world.
Even if you said that, I wouldn't care, because that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not. Don't compare me to them. They know who they are. Anyways, to me, the song. I think it's for me. I like paying respect to where you came from and how you are. So to me, that the first part of that song is my ode to hip hop. I feel like. Most rappers in the game, they have that song where it's like, this is my viewpoint of hip hop and how hip hop got me to this point or whatever. So that's what that song is. Mix of a Tribe Called Questlove and Tyreek, spawn of a trip hop Don. I'm not flexing. It's also establishing my 10,000 hours pretty much. Everybody knows that corny saying, you put in 10,000 hours, you mastered something. That's what they say or whatever. But the whole point of the beginning of that song is to give an ode to hip hop, to show my love for it, and that it is really the basis of all even if I'm doing indie music, hip hop's still the basis of what I'm doing, because that's where my love for music started. But it's that, and also the fact that I'm establishing that I know how to do this, and I've put in enough hours where I can do it pretty well. So that's what that song is. So what comes with that is you got the bravado, the flexing or whatever. I am not a guest. I'm a veteran at SB's. I'm not here like as a guest. I'm established at this point. Even though this is my first album, in my mind, I'm already established. So with that, the bravado and everything comes the arrogance, right? So it's like, okay, the journey of the song is like, oh, I'm big, man. I'm puffing up my chest or whatever. Then you get into real life, which is the second part of the song. You get into real life and how that bravado or whatever plays into your real life, and how you start to look at things differently in your real life, So that's where the second part of the song comes in. But it's also the realization of, other people can get that false sense of, false sense of comfortability in, what they think they can or can't do. And that's what the second part of the song is. And then you start looking at other people in a different way. And you start putting yourself in environments that aren't conducive of humble qualities, more conducive of feeling yourself and, getting too caught up in your own idea of how things should be and how you perceive them. Most of the times when you're in that heightened state of I'm the man, you're not seeing things clearly. So it was like a mixture of giving my ode to hip hop and also using that as a way to transition into the pinnacle of somebody hitting the wall, or the buildup of going towards the wall and what comes into that. So like you can break down the lyrics specifically and see the context of all that, but that's just the general statement of it.
Thank you. Now, before moving on, now I do watch interviews on like YouTube, my main source of watching interviews, and a lot of time these young kids. Now, you're not young. You're young, but you're not like a kid. They're in the comments. It could say, "Oh, them perks got them bugging." Why do they say that? They're like, or those perks are kicking his butt. They're saying that because the person is moving around a lot, and looking in all sorts of different, all sorts of different directions.
Sorry.
Now, you are hip hop's bestie, right? So
They cannot test me.
Well, you're testing that microphone.
Try to test me.
And you're moving around a lot. You have headphones on too.
I can hear myself.
So you can hear yourself when you come back here.
Sorry. I'll project my voice.
Because you're talking on the side of the mic.
All right. You want me to be stiff?
No, but I just don't want people to think that the perks.
I don't care what people think.
The imaginary
This is me.
perks.
This is how I think. I have to move to think.
I'm just telling you to be mic conscious.
Thank you, Charlemagne. Sorry, I'll talk into the mic more. Does that satisfy you,
See, we got a smart guy
podcaster?
here. So thank you for talking about keys.
Yes.
And then the next song that we have, which was part of it.
Can I go back to keys real quick?
Yes.
Mix of a Tribe Called Questlove and Tariq, spawn of a Trip Hop Dawn, this ain't flexing. I'm saying all that just because these are like the things that pretty much like represent me. The trip hop thing is a shout out to the fact that my dad's into trip hop. Most people probably wouldn't get that. That's just like a thing for me to get, but that's why that is there. And Tariq is the name of Black Thought, who is the greatest rapper to ever touch the microphone. Period. And then, Questlove, Tribe Called Quest, these are pioneers of the game.
Back in the day when I was a teenager, before I had status and before I had a pager, you could find an abstract listening to hip hop. My pops used to say it reminded him of beatbox.
Okay. Keep
I
going.
said, well, Daddy, don't you know that things move in cycles? The way Bobby Brown just something like Michael.
Ode to hip hop.
Yeah. I didn't know you listened to Tribe enough to mention them.
I don't like listen to them, but I recognize the fact that my style wouldn't exist if they didn't exist.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the song. Is paying tribute to so you have the electronic side with the trip hop, which is a variation of hip hop. It's inspired by hip hop. You have Black Thought. When I'm thinking about barring people up, I'm looking to Black Thought. I'm not looking at anybody else. When I'm thinking about competition, I'm looking at Black Thought. I'm not thinking about anybody else.
What about Drake?
Drake's cool, but I'm looking at, if I'm talking about like,
I'm just playing.
Yeah, I don't care. If I'm looking at something that I want to achieve to, that's that. I'm looking at Tribe Called Quest. My style wouldn't exist without a Tribe Called Quest. Like, that's just a fact. And their albums are classics. Like, I'm not bumping Tribe Called Quest all the time. But I'm not going to deny the fact that when it comes on, I'm not going to turn it off.
Yeah. I threw that in there, not to not like I didn't know you listened to Tribe. No, it's more so like
no. I mean, if you're talking about like listening to them, I'm not turning Tribe Called Quest on.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
But I love Tribe Called Quest at the same time.
I understand.
It's like I like orchestral music, but I'm not turning orchestral music on. Orchestral music is an inspiration to me. I'm not turning it on to listen to it. And that's not a dig at what it is, but I'd rather listen to something else. Yeah,
sometimes you got to remember to listen to it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's like if I'm in the mood, like I'm in the mood to listen to it.
Yeah.
But I also, the whole, like I said, the whole point of it is recognize the foundations of what's built on what you're doing. That's the whole point of it.
Got you.
And everybody in a Tribe Called Quest is fire. Like, these are some of the best to ever do it. Like, come on.
Yeah. Phife Dawg just dropped a posthumous
Keep that
album.
I'm not even going to get into posthumous albums.
Yeah. Neither we're on the same page with that. But anyway,
Except Mac Miller's, he was actually probably one of the only ones who dropped a good post-death album.
Pittsburgh Zone. So, healing process. This is one of the on Apple Music. It has a star next to it, which is that's recognized as one of the
that is the most played song
better performing songs
on Apple Music and Spotify. Yeah.
So healing process, big hit. This is a popular song. This was displayed, the making of this song in the documentary, Leave It As It Is, Not How It Was, on the Cool Hand Podcast YouTube page. Healing process. So the things that are even with the title of the song and the sound of the song, where did this come from?
So Johnny Who, my father, he made the beat. I first heard, I don't think maybe he played it for me before, but we were on a Zoom thing and he displayed it for everybody. And I was like, this is the best thing that I've heard you make. I think that he might've played it for me before that. But it was a great beat. It was a lot longer before I got to it. And he gave it to me and he's just like, do your thing to it or whatever. I'm always like kind of cautious with people when I'm working on people's production, because I like to change the arrangement or everything, but I also want to respect. But he gave me pretty much like free reign to do what I wanted. So there was like an intro to it, and I couldn't really do anything with the intro, and the song was already kind of long. So, as usual for my process, the chorus came first. I had the hook. The pre-chorus was kind of like a mumbled thing that I had at first, and then I kind of refined it, got it a little bit better. I had a verse for the intro, and then I had the second verse. And I sent the snippet to some of my friends, and for the first verse, I sent it and played it through, and the dude said the beat was renegading me. And I was like, oh, okay. So I rewrote my verse. And that's what you got with the first verse. And he was right, because it's like I approached it a little softer, but I had to come in and that's the thing with my you can't like haphazardly approach my dad's production, because there's so much density to it, where it's like you can either complement the production or you're gonna get in the way of the production, because most times the production can last on its own. So I was like, okay, that's all I needed to hear for me to redo it. So I rewrote the verse, and then that's what you got for that first verse. And that was the first time we made a completed song. And that song I didn't write that song with the intention of it being on the album, but when I finished it, I'm like, this is an album song. It has to be an album song. But the whole idea behind it, and he made the beat. When he made the beat, he titled it Healing Process. So my writing was based off of that, the whole process. So the bars in it are about like, the process of healing or whatever. And I felt like it was a fitting song to follow keys, because they were both up tempo. Actually, I think they might even be the same tempo. If I remember correctly, they might be the same tempo. But I felt like it was a good, like, hard-hitting follow-up to that. And it also was like a display of all my styles. A good display of pretty much like everything that's in my wheelhouse. The lyrics, the singing, the weird, like outro type stuff and ambient type stuff. And, so.
How do you feel about this song being, you can confirm, the most played?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
It's actually interesting to me, because I look at the song very aggressive. I look at it as like a very aggressive song. So I'm surprised so many people get into it, but I guess it's just people could feel the emotion behind it and the purpose. Like there's a real strong purpose behind the song, and I feel like maybe that's what people get into.
What's the
And like the chorus, people really like the chorus too. The way it like comes in, it's kind of like euphoric in a way.
What's the purpose of the song? I know I don't want to say it's obvious healing process, but
Yeah, I mean that's it. Like it. So like I look at like if you're healing, you have to look at things objectively or subjectively.
objectively.
You have to look at things outside of yourself.
Okay, so objectively.
And see, okay, what being critical and what can you do to improve yourself or to actually heal, and addressing, what is the thing that's bothering you. So I'm trying to like specifically think about my lyrics or whatever, but I always think about the second verse. Dang, I can't even remember my lyrics.
I got you.
Okay.
I know. I remember.
I remember
your
how
bars.
I remember it once it gets going, but I'm not good with remembering lyrics.
All right, let's see. I got your bars.
Yeah, if you read them back to me, I can better explain it. The intent behind,
Straight
like the
from-
beginning of the first verse, 700 days or 700 ways, 700 days, something like that, or 500 days. I forget which one it is.
700 ways running from the race.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm impatient. I'm in deep space.
Yeah.
I
So-
wrote these bars. Maybe that's why. This is some Milli Vanilli type stuff.
Q is the greatest ghostwriter I ever had. No, that's just like, it kind of goes back to my thing about Luke Skywalker, 700 days. I've been impatient, running in the race. You can't like expect to like automatically like heal from whatever. It takes time.
All right. So that's healing process. Let's talk about the next song, Let It Be. I was reminded of this song earlier in the this interview when you were talking about Star Wars and everything, and how things, you just need to let it be, let the past be the past. But the actual process of the song, can you talk about how it came about? We kind of have insight on the thought behind it, but the arrangement, the lyrics, the everything.
Yeah, so the song started, Chlorophyll Collins. Met him via the pandemic. Through the pandemic, we became cool. He sent me like a zip file of like a bunch of beats. We ended up making songs out of 3 of them. One of them being the Birds on Mars remix, the other one being Market and Deli freestyle, and the third one being Let It Be. Now, when he sent me these songs, I was playing them on my speakers, and as I usually do with my writing process, if I'm feeling a song, I turn on my recorder on my phone, and I start recording myself freestyling. So, Birds on Mars, I didn't do anything to that at that moment until like after he was like, "Oh, it'd be cool if you remix this," because that song was already out. But Market and Deli, the way you hear it was kind of like how I freestyled it. When I first heard the beat, when I first heard Let It Be, he had it titled as Find. When I first heard that beat for Find, I was just sitting in my room at my desk, had the beat playing through my speakers, and just off of first impression, I was recording it onto my phone, and I had the main vocal thing like, I can't let it be. Me, and that was just like the basic idea, and I was like, oh, I really like this, so I just got to develop it more. So that part of it was like from the initial reaction to the beat, And then the other stuff, like the more aggressive part of it, that came after the fact. While I was recording the first idea, I put it onto the beat. And I didn't record that like legitimately until way afterwards. I just always had that idea in my phone, and I was just like, I'm gonna turn this into a song eventually, but not right now. So I just had it sit there, and then once I was ready, actually that was probably that might have been one of the last songs that I finished on the album, recording wise. Yeah, it was one of the last ones that I finished recording wise, but I had the idea way early. I just wanted to be in the right mindset to finish it and to come up with the lyrics for it. And then actually, I didn't come up with the proper mindset for it until I was like at my wit's end with my job. And I remember having like a conversation with my dad. I was like really like at the end of the line with my job, just frustration wise, you know. Can you pull up the lyrics for that song? Because I'm going to try to reference some of that. But like some of the lyrics on that is like in direct reference to how I felt about being in my job. But basically the whole song itself is like, that's where the obsession with wanting control starts. Where it's just like, I can't let it be.
Who will free my mind? Oh no, I don't even find it no more.
Before that. Like, I can barely sleep.
I can barely think. If only I could be free.
So that's like, the inspiration was like I felt, you know, locked down with my work. Of course, that's not the purpose of the song, but that's what motivated me to finally finish the song. I can barely sleep. I don't feel like me. That was all like after effects of like, you know, all that stuff. So once I got that motivation, I recorded that song actually at my sister's house. They were away or something. And I recorded that song, and I recorded Sing From Your Heart too that same day. And that was the last song I needed to record for my album.
So with this song, you talk about the aggressive part, and that's what I wanted to bring out. Because you turn up. Mm-hmm. You know, you turn up, you start off, and when you first hear those sounds, I'm just call them sounds, in the beginning of the song, I think about, sound association. I think about your album. I mean, your documentary. Mm-hmm. When you first hear that. So that's the first thing I think. But
yeah, that was the first song I put like a real quality. Yeah.
The song goes from, I can't let it be. Then you hear, be, that, those vocals. And then you're singing. You have some auto-tune on there. Mm-hmm. So, okay, that's where the song is at. So this might be an emotional song. And it is emotional, but thinking, melodically. But all of a sudden, it's almost like you're yelling, out of frustration. Did that also come from that frustration with the current place you were in your life and your circumstances?
No, that was more reflective of the past. And that's the whole point of the song. It's not current. Like I said, my current circumstances allowed me to finish the song with an authentic emotion. But the rest of that was about the past, which goes back to Keys, the second part of Keys, where you start to look at things and people differently, and you start to be amongst these type of people. You see people going in different directions. And the second part of that is like, I don't want you to go in that different direction, or, I don't want me to think in that different direction. So that's what that second part of the song was. And that part of the song came about during the recording process. It wasn't like, because I didn't know what to do in that second part, and I didn't want to continue the Let It Be like motif, if you want to say it like that, throughout the whole song. So the second part of that just came from me. Like, I just turned the auto-tune on and I just started riffing. And I was like, oh, I like this, the way this sounds. And then I just started putting in relevant lyrics that would kind of fill in the gaps for the album story a little bit.
Let's move on to another fan favorite. Fourth song, excuse me, In the Womb. One of my personal favorites, not that it matters, but I wanted to throw that in there.
That's one of my favorites too.
It's almost like an interlude, kind of, And I listen to this in the morning. It's like, it's just one of those songs. Like the way you give it up on this short track is just, it's almost like perfect. It's almost the perfect time length and things like that. So where did this song come from, and why is it placed where it is?
So it's actually an old song too. It's one of the older ones. It's probably one of the second oldest songs. You said, what was the question you asked about why what?
Why was it placed where
Why was it placed? So this is like at the point, when I fall asleep, I think of you. When I fall asleep, oh man, I don't remember my lyric. When I fall asleep, I dream of you. So, to me, I looked at that that song as like, again, like holding on to something that isn't really like relevant right now, or something that maybe you lost that you don't have. I don't know. I think of that song sometimes like about like people who may have lost like, dead loved ones to death. In the theme of the album, it ends up being like, a love interest, but for me, that type of song is about, like I said, where I like extremes. So that's where it's kind of like the extreme is going to a breaking point. So it's like if you, the point of the song and why it's placed there is because in your dreams, we all have dreams that we wish were like real. Like you have a dream. I remember when I was younger, I had a dream that I had like all the coolest Pokemon cards. And I was like, man, I wish that was real, right? So the whole point of the song is like, you're getting so obsessed with like maybe this dream that you had, or like you're able to dream and your dream becomes a reality, and you're able to have that thing that you lost before, whether it was like somebody you loved or somebody that died, in your dream that no longer exists. So it's like the obsession starts to come into that point where it's like, okay, well, if in my dreams I can attain or have control over this thing that I have no control over anymore, then I'm going to keep going into my dreams, and I'm going to keep residing in this fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Don't wake me up.
Don't wake me up. Yeah.
That reminds me of a scene out of Inception. If this sounds familiar, there's a certain point where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is talking to the Indian guy, the Indian British man, and there's a bunch of people, laid up and on this little dream machine, whatever. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt asked the guy a question, the doctor. He was a doctor, and he asked him something, and he said, the doctor's like, no, they come here so they could wake up. Mm-hmm. So it was like they were, lost in that dreamland, that fantasy, whatever they were envisioning, and they were hooked up to this machine, but they had to be reminded to wake up because what was not reality became more important than
like reality. Like I feel like at a certain point, reality can get so twisted of how you want it to be, where it doesn't even feel real anymore. And it's like, this can't be real. Like this isn't how it should be,
Thank you for the insight. Love that song. It is audibly pleasing. That's the word. I don't,
And that song, that's one of the songs that went through a lot of different versions. originally it had drums, and it was a little bit more chaotic. And like I said earlier about the push and pull thing, once I got the production right on that, I was like, oh, I have to re-record my vocals because my singing was not on point. So I was like, I have to do this better. So
Don't wake me up.
yeah, and that was one of the songs where I was like, definitely has to have strings on it to fit the whole dream thing, and the harp part of it too. That adds to the dream element of it. You know, you associate harps with dreaming and like, you know, that kind of stuff.
I just want to spend a little bit of time on this just because a part of why and I'm glad that you've done this, but a part of why I want to ask you about reaching out to people is because not selfishly, but I want other people to know that it's attainable. Like I don't know anybody else who's reached out to outside musicians for these things. And you don't have to give numbers. You can, you know what I mean? But you can do it. Like it may not be as hard as one may think.
Oh yeah, it's very easy.
So when you decided you wanted to have the harp or the violin, viola, cello, bass on whatever song you do, what is the process like?
So for this song, it's different than the other ones that have strings on it.
Okay.
So I reached out to the artist. The harp was the first thing. I knew I wanted the harp to fit the whole dream vibe of it. So I sent the harp player the song. All you have to do is do a quick Google search, and you can find these resources. It's very easy and it's very affordable. And I said, I gave her the key of the song or whatever. And I just told her my idea for the song. I don't think I did give her a musical example of what I was going for. And I just said, just do what you can do. And I chopped it up a little bit, put it where I needed to be. I got rid of some things. And I just let her do her thing. I didn't write any of the strings on this song. Some of the other songs I did write the actual melodies for the strings. But for this one, I just let the musicians try to figure their way around the song. After that, I got the violin, and I basically just wanted it to be like a backup. One of the inspirations, there's a movie called Snitch with The Rock, which is probably one of his better movies. That movie was really good, but there's a violin part and like the motif of that song that's extremely like, it just kind of like goes under your skin, and I loved it. And so that's what I gave, like I wanted to capture that feeling. So that's what I gave to the violinist. I don't know if that's the right term. I gave to her, and I'm like, I wanted to capture that. So once she got that down, we went like back and forth a little bit, and I asked her to change some things. After we did that, then I sent it to the cello player, who was also the same guy who did the cello on Footer. And I basically just told him if he could just back up what she did with her string stuff, and he added his own thing, and given him the same example with that movie Snitch, the string part of that. And that's how the orchestral arrangement for that came about.
Respect, because you have to have a vision, and that's where not everybody can. There's levels, and I'm not saying this to boost your ego or anything, but I'm not saying
sunglasses are off.
What's that?
The sunglasses are off. There is no ego here right now.
And I'm not saying this like I said last time. I'm not saying this because you're my man. I'm saying this on some real stuff, like respect, because you have to have an idea. You have to put that together. You just can't tell everybody, do what you think is best. Then you're just going to have a bunch of other people's ideas. You have people's inputs. You told the harp player to do what she does. You gave people examples, but you had to direct and say, cello player, can you back up what other people are doing? He just didn't have free reign.
Yeah, because like the thing to get an orchestral sound, you have to have a quartet, and you can do that cheaply by having, a string player, a violin player playing this, multiple times, multiple takes, and then having a cello player play multiple takes, and then also a viola is a part of that too. It makes it sound orchestral. Yeah, because if you look at an orchestra, there's several cello players, several violin players, several viola players, but you can get it affordably by having these people do multiple takes of, different harmonies or whatever of it.
Shout out to all of those strings players.
Yes.
And you all contributed to a great song. Number 5, Chemistry, the song that's that all the ladies are wondering, who are you?
Get out of here.
All the ladies are wondering in 2022, who is Samson rapping about? I'm trying to sound like an old school, but yeah, that's what the whole world,
I guess they'll never know.
Yeah, I think you just broke a lot of hearts, Crowded Places. So Chemistry, let's talk about Chemistry. And In the Womb had a nice transition, how that song ends and how Chemistry begins.
There's levels to this. That was extremely purposeful.
Where's the sunglasses? So yeah, the transition between songs was great. One ends, the other begins, and we talk about chemistry.
And it comes in hard.
He's weird. But, so
when that bass hits, come on. Get the sunglasses. It's not time yet.
Okay.
That wasn't even a brag.
All right. So let's talk about Chemistry now. This one is a little more commercial, I would call. Mm-hmm. What's this one? I think it's transparent. What it's about.
Go ahead.
No, I'm interviewing you.
You said it's transparent.
I think it's transparent what it's about. But if you didn't cut me off, I was going to say, but can you go on and explain it?
I would like to hear what's so transparent about it.
Chemistry. Chemistry, what people use the term. You know what? I'm not going to have this happen on my platform. Because
this is a dialogue. It's not a...
No,
it's not a symposium.
I'm in interview mode. I'm asking you about your songs.
These aren't my songs. These are everybody's songs.
Who made them?
I don't know.
Let's talk about Chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
cool song.
Cool. So what was the purpose behind this song? What was the purpose and what went into making this song?
So it started with the hook, as per usual. Had the hook. The hook was inspired by real events. I think chemistry is very important in relationships. I think there is a natural chemistry between individuals that doesn't have to be forced. And when you get it with certain people, it's kind of rare. So that was inspired by real events. And then you have the verses. Here's my problem with explaining music. I like people to have their own interpretations of things. This is the caveat that I will say about all these songs. Just because I'm breaking down maybe my intentions or whatever, people's own ideas can be interpreted from this music. I have a very clear directive from beginning to end on how I think that the album is going and the story I'm trying to tell. But I like people to make their own opinions up. I say all that to say, so at this point of the album, like I said, I like extremes. So we're in the dream state. Before that, Let It Be. Basically, it's like, you know what? I just can't get over the fact that reality isn't the way I want it to be. And when I'm in my dreams, life is so much better, so I'm going to stay in my dreams. But, like I said with the Star Wars thing, when you can't accept change, sometimes the things that you're given in replacement for the fact that you can't accept change it's things that aren't always the best for you, but you don't really realize that until after the fact. So instead of getting, if you get stuck in the fantasy of things, instead of getting what you really need out of it, you're presented with this ideal individual who matches the criteria. So what could this ideal individual really give you in your life? That's what the song is, or what the song is leading towards. But the song is about the ideal individual that you would want in a relationship.
Chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Your shorty, your homie, your only best friend. Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
that's the way it should be.
So this really gives insight to the person you are and what you find valuable in a relationship, in a mate, right?
That's up for interpretation. Like I said, this is what was presented.
Didn't you say chemistry was important to you?
Chemistry, yes, but if we're talking about the bars and the song itself, that's what's presented. It doesn't mean it's always valuable.
Is it valuable to you?
Chemistry or the bars?
Chemistry.
We're talking about the verses
or
or the
about
hook?
chemistry.
Chemistry is the most important, probably one of the most important things in any relationship. Friendship, romantic, parental, familial. Chemistry is very important in all those things.
I had to think about it when it came to the parental thing because I was thinking about a parent's responsibility. This is all irrelevant, but I agree with you. I do agree with you how it's very important to parental, all that other stuff. I agree. So
I look at it as the key to a lot of things. If you have chemistry with somebody, you can work through a problem.
Mm-hmm. Can be more open.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to agree with everything. Like, that's not what chemistry is. But like, if you have chemistry with somebody, you're more willing to work through differences.
I agree.
Or you're more open to it.
I agree. I'll save my own personal experience. It's not even anything bad. It's more so when you do have a connection with someone or form a connection, whether you need it to be you meant it to be intentional or not. Mm-hmm. People are just in general more willing. Period. Just mm-hmm. more willing. I've told this story to you about people at work. Like, you spend time with people and you just get to know them. They get comfortable with you. And not saying that we don't have chemistry, but just nice. And then you end up learning. It's like, why are you talking to me about this? Like, I thought we was workmates. So, yeah.
And it's not always the thing that you need at that point in your life.
Yeah. All right. So, next, song number 6, we have Silver Lining. Now, this was dropped as your second single. Mm-hmm. The first single we'll talk about a little later. Now, Silver Lining was one of my favorites. Is one of my favorite songs. I'm disappointed that there is no star next to it right now. There was a star back when it was one of the only songs available. But when the whole album dropped, I guess people thought there was stuff that was better. But that's just me talking because that's one of my own personal favorites. So let's talk about Silver Lining, which was also featured in the documentary on the Qool podcast YouTube channel. That T Plus, who's the very first interview on the Qool podcast.
One of the best producers alive.
One of the GOATs.
One of the best vocalists alive.
One of the best vocalists alive. What else? Keep going. Oh, it just stops there?
One of the coolest dudes alive.
Okay, one of the coolest dudes alive. What else?
One of the most easy to work with dudes alive.
One of the most easiest work with. All right, I'll stop. Killed myself. All right, so Silver Lining. Let's talk about the concept behind this song. So up until this point now, we have chemistry, but everything else, keys, ode to hip hop, and then you get into the reality of things that you start rapping on, healing process. That is a gloomy gloomy. I'm just coming up on the fly. Gloomy. Doon, doon, doon.
That's reality.
Reality. Let it be. These are songs that are not upbeat. Chemistry is more summertime singly, like it's a single to get people, something to stick in their head. But Silver Lining is different than everything else, in my opinion. So when things don't take a turn, but the tempo changes. So where did this come from? How does it fit on the album? The placement of the song. What's behind this?
Yeah, this is another one. Started with the hook. It's a pretty old song. I had that chorus for a long time. Never really had the verses. I actually had a verse. The song was originally 3 verses, and the third verse was the verse that I created in the first place, and I scrapped it because the song was way too long. It was actually like during the breakdown, which Tevin's vocals are that T plus vocals are what filled in that space, and I added like a synth arp into that. Its placement of the song, I actually went back and forth a lot with this as far as like the track listing on like where to put this song, because what is it like conveying? But it's still in that like fantasy part of things. But the also point of the song is like it also, so like prior to this song, you're in the fantasy. You don't know you're in a fantasy, but in this song, it's like I know I'm in the fantasy, but I don't care. So that's the part of it. Also, like it's the type of song where it's like, man, I'm doing the best I can with what I got, and I'm really just trying my best. So that's what the song is about, and all that comes with that, Yeah, I'm trying to think of the lyric. I keep forgetting my lyrics. I know the second verse was inspired. Yeah, I took a trip to California, and the second verse. So I had the first verse done. Took a trip to California, and hung out with some cool people, and my friends were giving me some correction on my approach to how I talk. So that's what the second verse came from. They say I'm aggressive, violent. They say I'm like a riot. But hate it when I'm quiet. That's one of those things where like I've kind of felt my whole life, where it's like when people want you to talk, and then it's like, okay, it's too aggressive for me. But then when you be quiet and you don't say anything, they're like, why aren't you saying anything? What's your opinion? And that's kind of what that song is.
I'm about to check you.
That verse is. Go ahead.
Because this is a perfect example. I'm glad this is on camera too, because because these are your words, and I think you acknowledge this. I think your self-consciousness is on level 93, 94 if this was a video game. So that's how high your rating would be in the self-conscious level. So you're aware of some of the things that you are and what you do. So you talk about extremes, how it's either trash or it's GOAT. So with this one, and this is your real experience on the song, I'm talking about, but hate it when I'm silent. So it's like, okay, what's your opinion on this? Oh, but I'm too aggressive when I speak, right? So let me just be quiet. It's not even about that. It's okay, you can be too aggressive when you speak, or I'm not the person who gave him correction, by the way. I ain't never been to California a day in my life. And
those are some of my favorite people on the entire earth.
Cool.
Who gave me that. And only the people who I love can give me counsel that I'm going to listen to.
That's why you never listen to me.
I hate your guts.
It makes all this. No, so yeah, like that's the thing. Like this is a display of the extremes. It's like, okay, silent or too aggressive. Which one do you want? Pick one. How about we have the one that's right in the middle, where you can talk to me in a being gracious and seasoned with salt, and you can be real with me, but you don't. You're not a pit bull. You're not DMX. You're Childish Gambino or something. I'm trying to think of somebody with a soft image. You don't want to be DMX, and you don't want to be Claro. You want to be somewhere in the middle.
Whatever. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm saying, okay, they say I'm aggressive, violent.
Can you pull up the lyrics?
I don't care.
I care.
They say I'm like a riot.
Because there was context to that before that.
But hate it when I'm silent. Yeah, like, okay, you're somebody with an opinion, and a valid opinion most of the time. But when you come at people,
but it's not even about that. It's the fact that people are so used to people sugarcoating stuff to them. And when somebody says something to them straight, it's like, whoa. But in every circumstance where I've done that, it's come out to benefit the other person.
the next song is La La Land. Another one of my favorites.
Podcast.
Another one of my favorites, because I'm not going to argue this point. Let's stop.
The point is I've grown from it.
Now, the next song is also another favorite, another highlight from the documentary, which is La La Land. That song features your sisters, which you gave the backstory on in the first part of this interview.
Correct.
But being such a highlight on the album, can you give us the backstory, the intention behind the song, and so on?
Yeah, so this song is kind of further driving home, like what I said about Silver Lining, about kind of knowing you're in a fantasy, but you don't care. So that's what this song kind of is. It's like, oh man, I really wish I remember my lyrics. But it was like something, but it feels like, oh, I know it's not real, but it feels like, ooh, la, 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 la. So for me with that song, again, it was one of those things where I had the chorus first, but I love choruses that are just like a vocal melody. You know what I mean? I love that kind of stuff in songs. So I always wanted to do that in one of my songs. So to me, it was kind of like me doing my take on that. But I wanted the chorus to not so much be about what it's saying, but how it feels. And it's kind of like that feeling. Like if you ever, I don't know, like if you had like the best, I don't know, ice cream cone or something like that, gelato or whatever, Italian ice, and then you eat it and it's like, ooh, la la. That's that feeling that you feel inside where it's like, man, this feels really good, but you can't like express it with words. So that's what it's kind of like a blissful like type thing, but also like in that like fairy tale realm of things. You know what I mean? So that's the point of that chorus, but the verses kind of like reveal like the curtain behind it all. The original idea for the song was I wanted to kind of write from like there's a disorder called derealization personality disorder, derealization, something like that. I forget what it's called, but it's basically like you go through life, like things get so mundane and so similar that you go through life observing yourself from a third person. So it's like you're playing a video game with your own life. And I've felt like I've had those moments where it's like my life gets so repetitive where I'm just kind of like observing myself. And the original title of the song was going to be Derealization, just based off of that disorder, because I think it's really fascinating, because I have a lot of those moments where I'm kind of just like the third person in my own life, looking at things. But I felt like what I was talking about in the song was kind of a disservice to what the actual disorder entails. So I kind of pulled it back a little bit and kind of played with more of the fantasy aspect of it, you know. That's why, like, you know, part of the verses was like contemplative desperation. I don't think that's exactly what it is, but like
contemplated desperation, dream up something better to hide my life's displeasure.
yeah. So I mean that's self-explanatory.
Yeah.
You're dissatisfied with life, so it's like I'm making a contemplative. I'm making a concentrated effort to rewrite my story. That's what the song is, and it's like I don't care that it isn't what actually how things are playing out, but it's way better than how things are playing out. So I'm gonna create my own story.
Ooh, la 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 la, da na 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 na. How do you come up with
Beautiful
that?
strings. Just going with how the music directs me. That's just it. I mean, I don't know like what you can attribute it to. Maybe it's just like what's built within me, my own skill or whatever, you know, or inherent. I don't know. It's just how I approach music. I've learned to allow myself to let the music guide me. So that's how that came about. It wasn't planned or anything. It's just how I was, like I usually do when I freestyle stuff over music. That's just what came out of it.
Yeah, that was
And it felt right.
that was honestly an inappropriate question. Just because you're right. There's, you know, how do you come up with that? It just comes to you. Like the same thing. Not, I can only draw from my own experience. It's like, okay, how do you come up with saying this or saying something this way? But on the flip side, we're talking about melodies. We're talking about sounds. It's different. Sometimes I add my own harmonies to songs when I'm like, man, if they did this, it would sound, you know, just regular songs, you know. Even like when we're singing during the meeting, like I'll I'll sing in a different pitch or I don't know, pitch, key, whatever, to, you know, on certain parts.
Yeah.
So but you just do it. You don't.
I would just say that's like my personality.
Yeah.
I would say like that kind of stuff. To me, I think I said it in the first part when we talked about this song. To me, that's like the stepsister song to Somewhere Soon. That's just my style. When I think of Crowded Places, that's like my wheelhouse. That type of stuff. That's just me.
Mm-hmm.
This is stuff that I like, that appeals to me, and I feel like it's my identity, part of my identity.
Who is Crowded Places?
He's still learning.
The next song is called My Box of Something I Learned. And I think I'm confident a lot of people will learn that this song is called My Box of Content and not content. I didn't until you started saying it during the first joint. I thought it was called My Box of Content, even in relation to the song.
I mean, that goes with what I was saying. I don't like to give people interpretations. If that's how you interpret it, that's fine. It'll fit into whatever world you make it to fit.
That's how I read it.
Yeah, I mean, but look, if you're saying it fits with the way the song is, that's your interpretation of it. I have my own interpretation of it.
But you know what? But the song makes more sense knowing what the artist is talking about. It makes more sense because, and you'll talk about the song, but just like I feel like the word content is used so much more now in this era. So people don't talk about contentment on a daily basis. Oh, I'm a content creator. Oh, what type of content is this? Well, when I curate my content, all sorts of weird stuff that people say. Like, so I automatically, my brain, my eyes read this as content. So when you're talking about, I love it here, I'm so happy, okay, as an artist, which you are, okay, stuck in this box. You know, this box of content, whether it's in your room making music or whatever box you put yourself into, I'm thinking it's more personal to you, which all of these are personal, but I think that speaks to how I interpret music as I like the song. I may not relate to it all the way, like I'm so happy stuck in this box. Like that means something to Crowd of Places, not my box of content or contentment or anything like that. It's just, oh, I like the way this song sounds. Let's talk about my box of content. You did tell the backstory behind having Victoria on the song during our first part of this interview. But the idea behind it, especially since I had a misinterpretation of the title itself, can you talk about that, please?
Yeah. So this song is probably like the most tragic song out of all the songs. I feel like on the album, or at least like the most, it came from like more of a source of like pain, I guess. I think one of the things like I love extremes, like I said. Another thing I like is satire and sarcasm. The song is and I love like saying one thing and meaning another. So the song is very not what it sounds. It's not about being happy at all. It's lying to the song is pretty much lying to yourself. I don't know if that's transparent when you hear it, which is kind of the idea. Like you could either take it one way or the other. My intent with it is the song is a complete lie. In the entire song, I'm happy, and that comes with like the sarcasm and the satire. I love the fact that I'm so happy being in this box. You think of a box, it's a negative thing. You're in four walls. You're not going anywhere. So you're basically lying to yourself. And this is something that people and humans do all the time. We lie to ourselves. And if we're in a situation and we say, it's okay, I'm happy in this situation, but you're not. This kind of plays into another thing. I had a conversation with one of my friends. And it's like, if you ask somebody how you're doing, you don't really want to know how somebody's doing. And you're not going to really tell somebody how you're doing. So instead, you're just going to say, oh, I'm doing good, same old, same old. But really, you're not doing that great. So that's kind of like the whole thing of the song. The song is a lot. Somebody asks, basically the song is like a response to somebody asking, some outsider asking you, how are you doing? Oh, I'm so happy. I'm living in my box. I'm content in my box. I'm content being stuck. And that's like a coping mechanism to deal with the fact that you're not really doing anything or you're in the same place. So what all entails in that? And then you get into the details of the verse. I don't know how far this podcast wants to go as far as like, dark things or whatever,
Talk. Yeah.
But I remember writing the song, and this is the oldest song on the album. It was actually supposed to be on my original album, but I took it off and put it on this because I felt like this album needed something a little more personal. And every song is personal to me in a way. It's all very inspired by real things. But this is the song where it's like firmly rooted in reality, but also expresses my personality by the sarcasm of it and the, the false, the double narrative of how it can be perceived and how it really is. So, this was one of the first the oldest songs. I remember, again, my sisters were on vacation. I recorded at their house, and I was trying to like knock out my album, first album. I was trying to get that album done, so I was like recording a bunch of songs. This was one of them, and I was just like freestyling stuff. Now, an aspect of my former job, I did a lot of work with children, taking x-rays with children. One of the aspects of doing that job was the fact that if a kid died, they would come to us. We would have to x-ray them head to toe. My first experience with that was a kid. He came in through the ER, a baby. I don't even know, probably like a couple months old. Cardiac arrest. And they were doing compressions. This is my first time going to a trauma for cardiac arrest for a child. It was me and this other girl. And I'm really good at removing myself from situations. I can, like I said, this kind of goes back to the derealization thing where you can kind of see yourself as a third person, but also like I can easily cut myself out of situations where I don't feel anything. So it's like, okay, my duty is to do this, so I'm not going to allow myself to feel the emotional effects of it. So in the moment they're doing the compressions or whatever. Clearly the kid's done, but they have to do it for a while before they can call it. They call it, and then eventually after they go through things and the family mourns, they have to, the child has to come to us for x-rays so that they can make sure that there's nothing else going on with the kid before they can go to the coroner. So this was my first experience with it. Something I heard about and something I knew was a part of the job. And yeah, it was weird. I was literally holding a dead child in my arms. They bring them in, they put them in a blanket or whatever. But to feel the cold flesh of a living being. And for, like I said, for me in that moment, it was like, okay, I just have to do these x-rays. And it emotionally, I didn't feel it in that moment. But when we were in the trauma bay, one of the police officers, he started crying when they were working on the kid. And I don't know about you, but when you see like a grown man cry, that like it hits you, differently. And like I kind of had to like get control over myself. But I still was kind of detached from the situation. But that was like I had my moment of humanity when I saw this grown man crying. But anyways, this is my job, so I got to do it. So once they bring the kid back and do the x-rays, my coworker, she kind of assisted me. She was kind of struggling with it as well. I think it was her first one as well. But yeah, the problem with removing yourself from situations is you can't really avoid those emotions. You can kind of delay them, but you can't really avoid them. So eventually those emotions caught up with me. And I remember one time it hit me after work, and I just kind of like sat in a parking lot and, anyways, the song was me like letting those feelings out, and in a way, and then also like relating it to my own personal experiences. So, if you could do me a favor and pull up the lyrics.
Yeah, did you just want to see your own lyrics?
Just read them to me. Just for the verse. I don't care. Like the chorus, I'll explain the chorus.
What is the joy that I thought I knew?
Go to the second verse, please.
Before we go to the second verse, now that I'm reading that, I thought your voice sounded the best Now, I don't know how you tweaked your lyrics or how you tweaked your voice with this, but I felt like this was the rawest, some of the rawest of your own voice that we got to hear. And I thought it sounded good. Now, you have your voice, you have a tough voice to sing with. Like you're not Luther, you know what I mean? Like people who have these like Barry White, type voices. But I thought your voice sounded really good, and it adds to the emotion. Going back to what you were saying, some of your lyrics, I'm so happy, blah, blah, blah. All right. I guess it's all what I wanted right now. Wanted right, I know.
I know, yeah.
You are the one I fight, I show. I cannot live in light where I go. I cannot feel the fight I sow. I wouldn't bring my...
IO.
Okay.
So IO in the medical term is intraosseous. Hopefully I'm not getting this wrong, but usually in a life-threatening situation, they will inject epinephrine into somebody. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know if it was this kid, but there was a situation where they didn't put the IO into the bone properly, which caused the kid to die. So it was an error on somebody's life. But anyways, the point of me putting that into it's a life-saving thing. If you're in a critical situation, the intraosseous injection is life-saving. So I wouldn't bring my IO. Keep reading.
I cannot steal, no. I done seen too many children die. This ain't my life.
Okay, so the reason why I said all that, like I'm relating what I've seen. If I look at it, I'm looking at it in this song as in if I had the ability to give myself life-saving means, I wouldn't feel able to do it because I've seen way more deserving lives lose their lives and not get it. So why would I do that for myself? So that's basically what I wouldn't bring my IO. I wouldn't bring that for myself. I've seen way too many children die. And then go ahead.
This ain't my life.
This ain't my life. My life isn't owed to me. I'm not my life is dedicated to Jehovah. So, this ain't my life. I don't make the decisions based on it anymore. In that aspect of it, but also what I'm seeing isn't the life that I want it to be. Like I don't want to be, holding cold dead bodies.
You want me to keep going?
Yeah, go ahead.
This ain't my life. I can't renew who I was. I can't redo all this rush. For what it was, I'm so happy stuck in this box.
So again, that goes back to the, accepting of the fact that you can't keep trying to renew things to how they used to be. It's basically putting your life in perspective. Like there's way more things that are going on besides your own little issues. Where it's like, you're getting all consumed about your own little issues when there's so many more things and so many more people who would have done way more with your life, and you're wasting your life consumed by things that don't matter.
What are the things that are consumed?
That's for you to decide.
Talking about you.
It's not about me in this
song.
instance. It's not about me in that.
Because what I'm leading to, I said that for a purpose. I said that for a reason. Because when I read these lyrics, when you're talking about you've seen too many children die, this ain't my life, I can't renew who I was, I'm thinking in the context of it's unnatural for us to, death is unnatural, period.
Mm-hmm.
But to see a baby, to just see a baby alone, a dead child in front of you, to hold a dead, not a dead child, a dead infant, to hold a dead infant, I can't relate to that. a lot of people can't relate to that. Maybe we've all been to funerals, touched our grandma, grandfather, whoever, friend, and they, that cold, they're filled with embalming fluid, but you're holding you talked about it.
Yeah, and to like, okay, we need to hurry up because the body's getting stiff. We got to finish. That's how real it gets.
That's different. That's
Yeah.
different, and it's not natural. And so when I read these lyrics, I can't renew who I was. You change mentally, emotionally. You think about people who, unfortunately, I'm going to say unfortunately, caught their first body, or people who killed people, and they say, "I'll always remember the first person I killed," and they still dream about it. They still think about it. They can't get it out of their head.
Mm-hmm.
And it's changing. Like serial killers, they don't forget the first person.
Mm-hmm.
Not to compare this to being a serial killer, but the point of me bringing that up is you don't forget something that life changing.
Yeah, and no matter how hard you try to like remove yourself from that situation, it can not affect you.
That's serious stuff. So that's why I asked him, like, what do you mean stuff that stuff consuming you? Because I'm not you already know I'm not the big mental health person. I'm not the person. Shout out to mental health, but I'm not that type of person to be talking about it all the time, but more so like that's real stuff. Like that's real stuff that can mess you up. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, hold on, what you mean? What you mean consume? Because like I don't think anybody would blame you, and I'm not saying this on some intervention type stuff. I'm just on this is forget the camera.
When I say like consume them, I like when I threw it back at you, like it's on the person what things are consume them. Like at this point in the album, my frustration lies in that my life situations are changing. But in this song, the things that I'm thinking about, that I'm frustrated about, are nothing compared to the difference between life and death. It's nothing. And the fact that potential for life is a whole lot different than somebody who's frustrated that life is changing. And the fact that some people are robbed of the potential of life.
Thank you for the transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was clearly misunderstood. That's why I asked questions. Clearly, when you explain that so simply, it's clearly misunderstood.
Yeah.
But I guess that's also why lyrics are interpreted different ways.
And that's the whole point of it. Like I when I gave that caveat, whatever, prior, my idea of the album is not to be the definitive idea of the album. It's just the reason why I made it and where I was going with it. But I would hope people would make of it what they want to. That's why I'm not so explicit with how I'm explaining things. It's to be digested. It's not to be quickly consumed. It's not fast food. This is the stuff that will help you build muscle. This is protein.
Big dog.
Amino acids.
All proteins are not built equally. I watched a very in-depth video about that.
You're the bodybuilder.
I am not the bodybuilder. So he's saying this is eggs. These are boiled eggs.
If that applies, go ahead. You know more about it than me.
No,
I don't know about this stuff.
We're going to move on, but I watched a very fascinating video about how protein is consumed. And, you see something, it has X amount of protein. Oh, this got 32 grams of protein. Your body's probably taking in 5 grams of that 32 grams. So very interesting. That's why I'm saying this is boiled eggs, because there's a lot of protein that gets consumed within boiled eggs. Mm-hmm. So thank you for breaking that down, and thank you for being open, being that. Let's hope 50 people watch this.
It's going to 100 or more.
Let's hope. Let's hope. So
No,
thank
it
you
will.
for being
Do you know who it is? You know who you're talking to? Yeah. What song comes after this? What's after this?
You know.
Fairy Tales?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, we can put these on.
Fairy tales
Let's
and
go.
nonfiction. All right.
We'll
Fairy
keep
tales.
these on for the rest of the album because this is where I get in my
See,
bag.
this is a better look. You look like Deion Sanders. All right. Prime Deion Sanders. Prime time Deion Sanders.
These are yellow.
You just need a bunch of chains. Well, you have a chain on your fingers. All right. So
Sponsored by the Qool. Here's the thing. I'm not into jewelry, but Qool Hand got this for me.
I got
And
him
that's why I'm wearing it. And the thing is, too, like I put it around my neck, and it made me look like an R&B singer, and I'm not an R&B guy. I don't do anything that I don't represent. And even, part one, you saw me out here in my rapper bag. That's still in my wheelhouse. I'm here humble. Now I got my glasses on.
fake humble.
It's still in my wheelhouse. But anyways, this isn't me. But I like, I desire a pinky ring. So the chain doesn't fit me because I'm not R&B. So I put it around my fingers. And to show respect for the host and the fact that he got me this bling, I don't know if it's dancing on you, but it kind of changed colors a little bit.
You know, it dances. It dances. I have a video of it dancing.
Yeah, it changes colors a little bit. I don't know if the camera will represent it, but
It probably won't. It probably. But listen,
anyways,
I bought him a garbage chain last year, I believe. I bought him a garbage chain from Amazon.
turn the chain to a pinky ring.
It was really supposed to be like, kind of like in jest, like, okay, you're a rapper, like here's a like you need to look like
All
a
of
rapper.
this is in jest. And this is, like I said, it's in my wheelhouse, right? This is who I love satire. So, I mean, if people can't like clearly see the fact that we're just having fun with this, it's all in jest. So go ahead.
Some people can't clearly see. We scared a couple people before. There was a couple people who
Good.
thought
If you're scared, you don't belong.
who thought we hated each other.
Good for them.
But
They're losers.
I saw people rocking that chain from Amazon,
And
like
they thought it was legit.
yeah, for real. Like I saw people rocking them joints for real, because you could get every letter of the alphabet.
This thing's dancing. I'm not even gonna lie.
I had crowded places.
And you'll
icy.
never hear me rap about a chain.
I had them icy. All right, so
Actually, I have said chain in my song.
let's
Healing
talk.
process, I said chain, but it was a different kind of chain. You know
My
what I
chain
mean?
heavy, yeah, my chain heavy. Great Good Friday song. All right, so fairy tales / nonfiction. We get 2 songs in one. Pretty
Crazy.
much. Oh yeah,
Glasses
okay, yeah.
are on.
I forgot all right, so
We're out of the sad bag.
all right, so let's talk about this song and why you chose 2 songs to be in one song.
Fun fact: Fairy Tales wouldn't be on the album if Qool Hand didn't like it. That is true because
Oh snap!
I wouldn't say that because I'm not directed by anything that he thinks I should do. But I will say that his impression of the song, I always liked the song and I feel like it fit the theme of the song. If you're really into breaking things down, there's a lot of like I said, there's fantasy a part of this. There's a lot of fairy tale references in this album. So this song was another old song that I had a while back, and I was just listening through my old songs, and I'm like, man, this song fits so well with the theme of the album, but I didn't know where to put it. And I remember doing my first listening session with him in 3D, and we were driving from Ohio, and he was he really liked this song. So I'm giving him more credit than he deserves earlier, but to put it simply, it just gassed me to like, okay, I got to finish this song. So I improved the production. I had Tacum. I don't never know how to say Tycam.
Some friend, right?
Sorry, Tyler. I don't know how to pronounce things. I have an accent. Blame it on my accent. Tycam laced up the guitar. I originally played the guitar myself on my 3-string guitar and repurposed the song. When he heard it, it was just kind of like pads and the vocal idea, but it was strong. And like the harmonies and stuff was real cool. And yeah, like I said, he gave me the gas to finish it. So I played some guitar stuff, laced it out a little bit better, and had Tycam add some real guitar because obviously I'm not a good guitar player. Oh, I forgot to mention in My Box of Content, I am playing guitar on that song, and it sounded pretty cool to me. So yeah, back to Fairy Tales. So Fairy Tales was kind of like the whole in-your-face explanation of the whole concept of the album. Like if you didn't get it before with the other songs leading into it, this song was like the slap in your face, like, hey, this is what it is. But we can thank Cool Hand Podcast for me actually finishing the song and making it work within the track list of the album because I didn't really know where to put it. I also wanted to keep the album within the 13-track frame, and that would have extended it. And I love beat changes in songs, especially when they're drastic, like these two were between the nonfiction and the Fairy Tales. And I felt like they were a good contrast between, okay, we're getting out of the My Box of Content was like the punch in the gut, like, hey, suck it up. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that, but also like, stop feeling sorry for yourself, even though you're lying to yourself, thinking that you're happy in your current circumstances. And this song is like kind of coming back into what's real and what's not.
Shout out to the Cool Hand Podcast.
Sure.
Executive producer.
Do you want these now?
No.
Good.
I got a big hat on.
You don't deserve them. Oh, your hat's getting bigger too.
I'm happy to have contributed just a little bit. It was just a little bit.
Thank you.
And to this day,
I consume everything.
I still like it. My opinion never changed.
And I redid the vocals too. That's another one of those push pull things. When I improve the production, I'm like, I gotta sing this better. So that's what I did.
So yeah, shout out to you for making that and keeping it on there. Happy to have it on there.
Me too.
To listen to.
I feel like it's an important track.
And I like the transition.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it is important. Like you said, it's in your face. Like if you didn't get it, you'll get it now.
One thing I forgot to mention, there's a couple pivotal tracks on the album where it's like the tone changes. And if you listen to the songs, you'll hear me say, all right. I don't know if you caught on to that, but there's I think four songs or 3 songs on the album, and they're the 4 like tone changes songs, where you'll hear in the song like My Box of Content, I say, all right. In the final song, I say, all right. There was another, I can't remember. In the Womb, I say all right before the beat before the but anyways, that's like the connective tissue between the album. So if anybody's listening to the album and you hear there's I think 4 or 3 songs which are the pivotal songs. I mentioned 3 of them. I'm failing to remember the 4th one.
Leave It As It Is, Not How It Was.
It was Leave It As It Is, Not How It Was. It was in that right before the verse. My Box of Content, it was in that one. Right before the verse, and it's the same recording, and I just copy and pasted it into the other songs to show the transitions between the tone. In the Womb, I don't think it's in keys. It might have been in key. I don't think it's in keys.
Keys, Healing Process, Let It Be. You said In the Womb, Not Chemistry.
Not Chemistry.
You didn't say it in Silver
It's
Lining.
like every 3rd song or something like that.
3, 1, 2, That would be Silver Lining 1, 2. Fairy Tales Nonfiction 1, 2. Best Friend. Best Friend?
Maybe. That's for the listeners to find out. Honestly,
There
at
you
this
go.
point in time, I can't even remember my own lyrics, but keep a lookout for that. That helps connect the songs even more. Like, just so people know, I'm not just throwing stuff against the wall. There's actually like some thought into these things.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's another conversation. I know you like artists. They might get like mad, upset, not mad, upset, or maybe frustrated, or maybe flabbergasted, surprised, taken aback that some people don't get certain things.
I don't care. I do that stuff for my own entertainment. You ever crack a joke and you just laugh at it because it makes you laugh?
I've been roasting you this whole time, so yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're not funny, so you're funny to yourself. No, I'm just playing. But no, like I do that stuff for my
point.
it's for my own entertainment, that kind of stuff. But like if you're into that kind of stuff, you'll find it.
See, but you know what? If you didn't say certain things, it would. If anybody else said some of the things you said, it would sound like a reach.
Mm-hmm.
Facts.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see stupid stuff on the internet, but it's stupid to me. If I like, because I read comments, I get entertainment out of it. Now, if somebody said on a comment on your song, do you notice that, or his album, let's say he has a full album, and it says on YouTube, I'll be on YouTube at work. Did you notice that on this song, and this song, he said all right before, and they're the deepest? Be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's just like, sometimes Drake says, look, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't think anything of it. I wouldn't bat an eye.
Right.
So if you didn't say some of these things, if somebody else pointed it out, I'd be like, all right, buddy, like you're doing too much nerd hip hop stuff. Like, it's not that deep. But
it is.
It is.
But yeah, when you notice that kind of stuff, those are all songs that are like points of acceptance. That's why it's all right. It's like, okay, I'm accepting the way this is.
There's a lot of deep stuff with Crowded Places, and
most of it's for my own satisfaction because I know people don't have the
quit while you're ahead.
People don't have the what's the term? People don't have the patience to care about that kind of stuff. They don't. Which is fine with me. Like I said, the reason why I say it's album of the year, because it's music. I made the music for myself, and it's the music I want to hear. So, people don't have the patience for that kind of stuff, so I do it for myself. I put those little Easter eggs in there for me because I think it's cool.
I agree. But this is the one thing I'll say about that. People generally don't have the patience when you capture that one person, and it's probably just going to be one person every time. And for like bigger artists like Kanye, Kendrick, it's a percentage. It's a small percentage of people who want to break everything down. So
they were trying to break down Kendrick's last album, and that was a huge reach. The whole play it in reverse.
I don't even want to talk about that. Shout out to Kendrick Lamar. He's one of my favorite.
He's one of the GOATs.
Yeah,
he's up there with me.
But I don't want to talk about it. Don't bring his name. Don't bring. That's not even. I don't. Shout out to Kendrick Lamar.
He's fire.
To Pimp a Butterfly is his best project.
Go on to the next song.
Yeah, well, you brought him up. You wanted to talk about Kendrick.
I love Kendrick. He's cool. He's great. He's an influence on me. He's up there with me. We're going toe to toe. People want to talk about peer groups. I'm not battling. I'm not looking at peer groups. Go to the next song.
Yeah, let's talk about nonfiction because that's where the rapping comes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just it's just classic, hip hop, just bars explaining my coming to terms of reality, also while displaying the fact that I can rap. That's pretty much what that is. The beat was a sample that I took from a cassette of my dad and his friend Nick Comanisi, them jamming together. I just took that from that part of the cassette, looped it, throw some drums and percussion on it, and just started rapping.
That's a good tidbit.
Mm.
That's interesting. I never knew that. Never would have thought of that. That's what's up. Shout out to Johnny Who. Shout out to Nick.
Yeah, he goes. His band's called Saturday, SAD. Some pretty good rock, alternative rock music.
You know, we started this second part of the interview on a Friday, and
now it's Saturday.
It is now Saturday. Let's move on to, and by the way, Fairy Tales Nonfiction, at least on Apple Music, is one of the more popular songs. So, shout out to that song. Shout out to you. So
that song's like a perfect representation of me as an artist. I feel like it covers all the bases.
We get a change of pace with your first single, Be Alright.
Mm-hmm.
Now, explain this song, how it came on the album, and what made you pick this as your first single.
I liked the song because it kind of had like an empowering motive to it, but also had like some really like sad and dark undertones, which again kind of falls into like my personality and like the whole like satire and kind of like twisted way of doing things, which I like. The song's pretty dark, like fundamentally, but it sounds good and it's very high energy. IBN, he did some co-production on that. He did like most of the production stuff, some of the drum work, the transitional stuff, all the synth stuff was me. And yeah, the song just feels like an introduction, you know, even like when the rap first came in, I felt like that's like a perfect, especially since like when that song came out, there was like a little period of time from when I dropped music. So I felt like that verse kind of felt like a representation of me and my personality and coming back, you know, the whole like moving like a myth thing. That's like one of my favorite lines ever, because I feel like that kind of like represents me well in the way I do things.
What made you choose this as a single? Because this song is one of a kind on the album. There's no song that sounds like it remotely close, like it's in its own category.
Interesting. I would say Awake has a similar vibe to it. I like I said, I chose it as the single, and it's not really like a single. I just chose it as like a song to people to hear where I'm going with my sound. And that's why I chose it. And like I said, because the verse felt like a reintroduction of who I am. It had that little call back to Somewhere Soon in there. And then, like I said, the Move Like a Myth thing, I feel like that kind of represents my personality and how I kind of live life.
How did this song come together in the sense of, okay, you're making the song, you did the production on this one, right? And Ivan did the co-production, but what was it sounding like before he got his hands on it?
I mean, you can kind of hear it in the documentary. It's one of the first songs that is shown in the documentary. I'm in my room, and I got the microphone. I have my glasses and my hoodie on, and I'm just kind of like riffing the vocal idea. You can kind of see the vocal idea come to life. So yeah, that's how it sounded. It was The drums weren't as hard hitting as they are in the final version. That was also like I had a hard time mixing this song because I wanted the bass to like destroy you when you would hear it in like a good system. I wanted the bass to destroy you, and it was just like it wasn't enough. So I just kept trying to push it. And there's a certain limit if you know anything about like mastering. There's there's a certain limit on how you can push things before it starts to crap out and it starts to distort. So I was really trying to push it like right to a fine line, but I really wanted it to like destroy your ears with the bass. So that was like my goal with that song.
Okay. Did you hear anybody? Did anybody text you or hit you up about the bass?
Oh yeah. Mission accomplished.
I was about to say mission accomplished.
Yeah. When I let my dad hear it, he was like rattling his ears. I'm like, perfect.
Wow.
That's what I wanted. Yeah, when he heard it, because whenever I finish a project, I give it to him to listen to, make sure, give the final okay on the mixing and like, that I'm not like jumping out the window too much, stuff I'm saying or whatever.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, Awake. I'll be awake. Oh. Any noteworthy points from this song that you want to bring out?
I mean, the song's pretty self-explanatory. It's kind of like coming out of the fantasy of it all. It kind of ties back to the whole like chemistry thing. It's probably like the answer to the chemistry thing where, you need a little bit more than chemistry is a good way to get yourself into the door, but sometimes you need a little bit more. And the awake is like, okay, I'm awaking from what this fantasy gave me, and I need a little bit more for myself and what I'm worth. So that song is kind of like coming to and the realization that you need to, accept things for the way that they are.
And you mentioned this in the first part of the interview. Just to reiterate, we had Ivan. What did he do on this one?
He co-produced this one as well. He did like a lot of the transitional stuff. The song was pretty much done, and I sent it to him, and he kind of just laced it up, put a bow over the top of it, made the things flow a little bit better. The drums, part of the drums, actually, I did, and I muted, and then he unmuted them and kind of like tweaked them a little bit and made them useful. So I put them back in the song. Because originally I sent it to him to redo the drums because I'm like, wasn't really happy with the drums. But he ended up unmuting the drums and just making them sound a little bit better. And then he kind of add like the kind of like weird delay effects and stuff like that. He's really good at spatial effects and creating depth in songs and the little glitchy stuff. That was him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's. I think you guys work pretty well together. The things that you collaborate on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a different kind of energy when he's doing songs with me, which is why I was like kind of confused when you're like nothing on the album sounds like Be Alright. To me, Awake, which is part of the reason why I put it after Be Alright, was because sonically I feel like they're in the same world. Like throughout the album, you can kind of hear the transition, the music go in that direction, and then it fully embraces it at that point.
Let's go to another one of my favorite songs.
One of mine too.
Which is Best Friend. I wanted to ask you this question, but I'm just going to make this a statement for time's sake. Would you agree that this is the most underrated song on the project?
Easily, yeah.
All right. Why is that?
To me, it's like the pinnacle of everything that I like about music. It's got the story, the lyrics, the synths. I love synths. It's got the synths. It's got the hard-hitting drums. It's kind of got like that throwback, like 80s vibe to it. It's got the strings. It's got the vocoder, the choir. Basically, like everything that I love about music is in that song.
What is this song about?
The song is about accepting the fact that you can't control everything and that you have to separate paths from people eventually. You have to split ways. You do what's best for you, and I'm going to do what's best for me. That's what the song is.
The choir wasn't always a part of this song.
Correct.
I can't remember what the song sounded like when we were coming back from Ohio. Can't remember. But I remember we was chopping it up through the text message, and you were playing around with the idea of reaching out to a choir. I didn't know which choir. Reaching out to a choir. And we got to see the fruits of that in the documentary. Now, in regards to the choir, can you shout them out? What's their names?
So the name of the choir is Musica, children's choir. Go ahead.
How did you find them?
Just Google. I Googled a children's choir. It was very important to me that I wanted childlike vocals at the end of this song. I found another choir. It didn't work out. The guy never replied back to me. So I hit these people. And it worked out. It worked out. They've done vocal work on a lot of like people's albums, like professional, big time artists.
Why did you want a children's choir on this specific song?
Like I said, a lot of the parts of the album is about coming into adulthood, realizing about, innocence being lost and all that stuff. So the children's choir kind of just represent the youthfulness that I was trying to reclaim, but also accepting the fact that you can't be young forever, and you can't, but that stuff can still be a part of you. So that's why it was important that I wanted that youthful voice at the end,
Why do you think this song is overlooked?
For me, it doesn't compute. If you're saying I'm a robot, my response is this does not compute. It doesn't make sense. Probably because, like I said, people don't have patience. So the song's long. It's a 6-minute song. It's an opus. It's a dynamic song. It's long. It goes on, but it's about the payoff. That's part of it too. So it's probably just too long. People don't got time for long songs.
I have a theory. And I told you this before, but I'm going to say this on camera. I have a theory that people get album fatigue and they do not make it so far. That was my theory. Especially we mentioned, okay, people are listening from the top. And as time goes on, is your album under an hour?
Barely. It's like 56 minutes.
So
it's long.
It's close. And I think a lot of people who are listening to the album are around our age, within 5 years of our age. And all these people have lives. All these people go to work. Like I might, plug in the aux before I go to work and get to work and be on like the 4th song, and then I don't get back to it. And then it might start over the next day. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people are get album fatigue, especially when your first 3 songs. This always happens when an album comes out. The first 3-4 songs all have stars next to it on Apple Music, because you
don't finish the album, and then it's like, okay, let me start from the top. because you don't want to start where you left off, or you forget where you left off.
Yeah, and all these songs become like, the numbers are going up crazy for these songs.
Yeah.
But that's one of my theories, because there is nothing wrong with the song, or they just get simply tired, because this is one of my favorite songs. I like what you do on the song. Not that it matters, but I feel like I love various genres. And I listen to a lot of different stuff, and I feel like my ear can speak for the common person. The one person I really can't understand is Kid Cudi. I don't understand how I'm dead serious. And I don't say that to just hate on Kid Cudi, but I'm saying, like, I feel like my ear can understand why people like a lot of different things, and I can't find why someone wouldn't like Best Friend, or why, as this is an underrated track, why it wouldn't be as lit as the other ones, just being frank. So I think it may be an album fatigue. Cats get tired. They might have been listening to the joint for a while, and by Best Friend, it's like, all right, I'm exhausted. Like, all right, let me turn on some Dolph. Like,
I will say, one of the things I did want to accomplish with the album was to exhaust people by the end of it. I wanted you to feel drained.
why?
Because it was exhausting to make.
So
the content is exhausting. So I wanted people to feel that. So if that's what came across, cool. Mission accomplished again. But I did want people to feel exhausted after, like it's a workout.
Interesting. Misery loves company. So, Best Friend, was there anything else you wanted to add about Best Friend? I feel like there's a lot that can be talked about with this.
Yeah, I mean, I just love the song, and people can break it down however they want.
Shout out to La Musica. Is that La Musica?
Not
Children's?
La Musica. Is it? That's not La Musica.
That's why
Just
I asked.
Musica.
Oh, okay.
They were also featured on Donda by Kanye West.
Who?
So, funny story. I don't know if I told you this before. I did tell you this. Kanye was doing his thing, and they actually pushed my studio session forward because he pushed the button on them. It was like, I need y'all Sunday. And that was when they were going to record my song. So they had to do my song early, which worked out for me because we had the assembly Sunday and I wasn't able to listen in for the studio session. So when it came to them pushing the date back, and the only reason why I was able to find out was because I messaged them, and they were like, oh yeah, we had to push it back because Kanye wants to use us Sunday. So I was able to actually listen into the session and direct them how I wanted them. So I'm very grateful for that. So thank you, Kanye West, for exercising your celebrity on me and pushing my studio session back, because I was able to direct the song to be exactly how I wanted it to be.
Good segue to the very last track. Leave It As It Is, Not How It Was. Now, I would say it would be easy to say that, okay, this sums up the album, but I want to hear it from Crowded Places.
It sums up the album.
Okay.
It sums up the album. There's nothing else to say. You listen to that verse and it explains the entire album. It gives you the fairy tale aspect of it. It has the sample from Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack the Giant, you know what I mean. The Beanstalk, Jack and the Beanstalk. You never heard Jack and the Beanstalk?
When you said giant, then I thought James and the Giant Peach. That's why I'm like, hold on, finish. Okay.
The giant, when Jack had the bean, he threw the beans in the ground, and the beans grew into a beanstalk. He climbed it up into the giant feet 5 foot foam.
Got you.
It's a part of the, like I said earlier, the fairy tale metaphors and references are throughout the whole entire album. It comes to a head at this song. It's the summary of the album, but it's also the acceptance of it. I think that's probably the best verse on the album.
It's a very good track. Very good track. I like what you did with your vocals, especially toward the end. How They kind of fade out and the pitch changes. If I got that right.
There's also another choir at the end of that song, a live choir. It's not a sample.
Who's that?
But it's not like a legit choir. It's just a male and a female vocalist who do those type of vocals, and they doubled it to make it sound like a choir. But live vocals, more people that I hired.
That's good enough. Yeah, shout them out.
I can't pronounce their names. I don't know how to pronounce their names.
Got you. They're from a different country.
Maybe.
Foreign.
I don't know, but they killed it.
Right. Shout out to them. And you had strings on that. Did you have somebody play the strings, or is that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the same string players prior. This one I wrote the strings for this one. For the most part, I believe. Yeah, so like there's a few songs where I let the strings players kind of do their thing around based off the melodies that I created. And other ones I wrote the melodies with virtual strings, and I just had them record them live. And I believe this was one of them where I wrote these.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to ask about the album as a whole. How do you feel about the album? You call it album of the year, yeah, because that's what you like to listen to. How do you feel about this album as a body of work, that you put it out, that you were vulnerable, although everybody might not relate to everything or catch everything? How do you feel about this album? What is its importance?
I mean, I'm extremely proud of it. I think it perfectly represents everything I wanted to do with music. While I was making the album, I was kind of afraid, like, man, I hope I don't die before I can finish this, because I want to make sure that it, it comes out. I don't know. It's like a weird thing to think about, but I'm like, man, I hope I don't die before I can put this album out.
I've had that thought.
Yeah. So I'm just glad that I was able to put it out before I died. So for me, it just felt like, hey, I've done everything that I wanted to do with music for this album. Of course, I have like a lot of more ideas for what I want to do, but I feel like the album's like a perfect representation of what I love about music, why I do music, kind of like a good glimpse into who I am and how I think about things, and also like what I love about music and how you can like learn lessons from it, but also like have something that you can continually like take things from and kind of digest more. So yeah, I it's everything I could have wanted it to be and more, If I didn't have more ideas after this, I would feel like I don't know what to do after this, if that makes sense.
I'm 99% sure I asked you this the first time around on part 1, but how do you feel about the reception it's gotten?
Very happy. It accomplished its mission. It inspired people.
You did say that.
Yeah.
That does refreshes my own.
And that's the goal with what I do. Like I can have the sunglasses on and be in my rapper bag or whatever, but at the end of the day, I make music because I was inspired to make it, and it helps me to kind of function throughout life. It's like an extra thing that kind of helps me, become more of who I am, or realize more of what I am. So if what I do can help other people to kind of feel the same way, or look at things the other way, or to kind of push themselves, like I said, when we're talking about writer's block, stop accepting. If it can help people to stop accepting like what you think is passable, but it's not good enough and you can do better, maybe it'll make you think, okay, maybe I should start doing better and stop pacifying myself as a human being, because it's very easy to pacify yourself and say, well, it's like you spend a week working out, and it's like, well, I spent a week working out, so I'm going to buy a cupcake because I spent the week. That's pacifying yourself because you did good. I spent 7 days and didn't eat nothing bad, so I'm going to get myself a cupcake. And it's like, no, keep going. Keep doing better. Don't just baby yourself because you've been doing good, for a little bit.
That don't relate to writer's block.
Laziness is what I'm talking about. Stop being lazy.
That's not lazy.
Okay, well, you don't agree with my writer's block take.
No, well, you could honestly. You said something earlier that
stop giving yourself excuses.
I'm not.
If you know you can do better at something, do better at it. That's what I'm saying. Anyways,
you never had right. You clearly never had writer's block before. But even though you said something earlier that falls under the umbrella of writer's block, because you said something.
Your definition of writer's block.
You said
what
something.
did I say?
You said something earlier, and I only mentally took note because that wasn't about what I was thinking, or it wasn't about writer's block at that time. But since we're at the end of this, you said something about how like you're not feeling it, and you'll save it. Mm. That's a side effect of writer's block. I know.
No.
Yes.
You're referring to Let It Be. When I said I had the idea, as soon as I heard the beat, I had my idea of how I wanted to approach it, but I didn't have the emotional connection to it to fulfill it.
It wasn't Let It Be. This was something you said in passing. Like this wasn't something that was focused on. It was something else. I can't. But
I've never had writer's block.
I'm not saying Samson, you had writer's block at this moment. I'm saying what you said can fall under the umbrella of writer's block, where you are there, you have something, and I'm not saying like you can't even start. You can get started and then get stuck, and you can't literally. When I say, I don't think you understand. Writer's block is literally a block, and you're saying it doesn't exist. You just work through it. That's like me saying, anxiety. Anxiety is just an excuse so you don't have to take accountability. But for somebody with real anxiety or depression, like, I just looked at my chart. I just looked at my chart, like in the doctor's office chart, and one of my things is depressive mood. I'm like, who said I was depressed? Who said I had a depressive mood? I'm me. I'm just living. I'm like, who told y'all to write that? But because
it's a horrible comparison.
No, because you can't relate. Just because you can't relate doesn't mean that it's not there. That's what I'm saying.
Writer's block and depression are
completely
different.
No. My point is, just because you can't relate doesn't mean it's not there. I can't relate because I think we all get anxious, but sometimes I think the
anxiousness, anxiety, it's not comparable.
That's what you say. That's what you say. Because you don't want it to make sense, because you don't want it to make sense.
Maybe you don't want it to make sense.
You don't want it to make sense
because you've had writer's block.
No. Because you fake haven't had writer's block.
It's not a fake.
You fake haven't had writer's block.
It's not a fake.
You've never been stuck on nothing creatively. You've never had no type of block. You just had to work harder and you got over it.
Work harder, get over it.
You just had to work harder and get over it.
Work harder, get over it. Do something else.
Work harder, get over
writer's
it.
block is an excuse.
All right. You never had no type of block, even though you said it on camera.
That's a lack of inspiration.
That's a lack. Okay, inspiration and having writer's block is two different things.
Okay, but inspiration plays a part in writer's block.
But it's two different things. Inspiration doesn't directly affect having a block, a mental block.
You can't have a block if you...
Stop. That's the thing. Like
you can't have a block if you're inspired.
Yes, you can.
I don't.
Exactly, and you can't relate. Just because you can't relate doesn't mean it's not there. Just because you can't relate doesn't mean it's not there. Facts.
No.
Facts.
No, you're twisting something into something that's not.
You're smiling because you know you're playing games.
I'm not playing.
You are playing games. I'm being serious. You're playing games.
You're a psychopath. You're playing games.
This is the dude who came dressed up as a mobster because he watched Batman 24 hours ago. And
this is the dude who's wearing a fedora because he listened to Joe Budden once.
You made that up. I have this because I like it.
Okay. Romantic?
Does anxiety exist?
Of course.
Does writer's block exist?
You know I get anxious every single day.
I don't care. I can't relate.
Cool.
You don't get
With
anxious. You're just lazy. You're just soft.
That's a poor excuse. You're talking about a real tangible thing that affects people compared to something that people do as a hobby.
That is a poor excuse.
You hear that, mental health people? I want y'all to get on this boy. He's weaponizing mental health. You hear that? Get on him in the comments. I want you to get on him. Twitter, where are you at? You're weaponizing something that's real compared to a hobby, writer's block, to make your point. See, this is what we're talking about with psychopaths, because he's trying to use this to twist it onto me like this is something that I do. This is Yeah, you ever heard of the term gaslighting? This is what gaslighting is, to make somebody feel like what they're doing is wrong, but it's really what you're doing.
Isn't that what you're doing right now?
No. You're gaslighting me because I say writer's block is a myth. So you're using real issues to try to make it seem like writer's block is a real issue. Let me tell you about writer's block. It's irrelevant. Work harder. You're into the reaches. I'm in reality. I made an album about getting out of Fantasyland. Get out of fantasy. Maybe you need to listen to this album one more time.
I didn't think it was good.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to give it another listen.
That's cool. I didn't make it for you.
Didn't you just say that was an excuse? You said that in a group chat. You can't use that as an excuse. This wasn't for you're not my audience. Go ahead.
I'm happy with everything I said.
I wanted you to be happy with it. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Crowd of Places. I appreciate you talking about the album and the process and everything. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about the album, just your own personal feelings toward it, or any shout outs?
No, I'm just I'm really happy with how it came out, and it's really satisfying to have something be how you intended it to be, but also like allowing it to be its own thing. I don't want to like I hate when people like get too like into their own behind about the stuff that they do.
This is your work.
But it's just cool. Like I have something that kind of properly represents me, and it does what it does what I wanted it to do, which is cool. I'm proud of it, and that's all I'll say. And extremely grateful for everybody who was a part of it. My sisters, my dad, my cousin Victoria, Cantu, Chlorophyll Collins, that T+, 3D on the drums, for me, music is personal, so it's a blood thing. So I don't just let people easily get into my process of making my stuff. So like if they're a part of the process, then they are valuable to me and they're important to me. So it's cool to have valuable people be a part of my process, and IBN too, even though we're not like that close, but he was there for a while from the start. He's one of those people, and we've had some real conversations. But anyways, all that aside, it's cool to have something I can be proud of, and other people who are part of it can have something that can be proud of, and it represents them properly as much as it represents me properly. Yeah, man, that's just what it is.
Crowded Places on the Cool Hand podcast.